Chapter 569, Chapter 569, Imitating the Sect Master's Words. Chapter 569, Imitating the Sect Master's Words. At the White Moon Lake, on a small island in the lake, Baiji sat in a pavilion with a middle-aged man. Behind Baiji was a person in black robes, and across from her was a young woman. At this moment, the two people sitting were looking at the sky. It wasn't clear what they were thinking. After a long time, the middle-aged man said, "Elder Baiji, what do you think?" Nangong Wanwu, one of the elders of the Black Heaven sect, had a high status. This time, he was here to represent the Black Heaven sect. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the honor of being personally received by Baiji, the acting sect master. "Elder Nangong, have you noticed it?" Baiji smiled softly. "I wonder if these people are targeting our Heavenly Note sect or your Black Heaven sect. It's also possible that they want to participate." Nangong Wanwu smiled. "Their method is so obvious. They probably are deliberately informing us of their arrival, right? Or are they warning our Heavenly Note sect?" Baiji looked at the man in front of her with a smile. "Ha." Nangong Wanwu laughed lightly. Perhaps because the reputation of Heavenly Note sect has been on the rise lately. There are rumors outside that the Heaven Lock technique is appearing. They may have set their eyes on this place. We have all seen the anomaly. Elder Baiji, do you think they are warning the Black Heaven sect not to meddle?" Baiji smiled. "Elder Nangong, can you tell whose technique this is? As a junior, my knowledge may not be as good as yours." "Ha. I think it should be some kind of curse." Nangong Wanwu thought for a moment. "Well, that's a start." Baiji nodded. "I don't know who will be affected the most if they continue this. The exchange between sects will definitely affect both sides." Nangong Wanwu sighed. "I heard that the Shenyuan clan is on the rise. Won't that have a greater impact?" Baiji poured tea for Nangong Wanwu. "On the rise?" Nangong Wanwu looked a little puzzled and nodded. "It is indeed true, but their rise has little to do with this exchange." "Yes, not much." Baiji took a sip of the tea and stared at the man in front of her. "I wonder if it will affect the appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign." When Nangong Wanwu heard that, he froze for a moment. But he quickly regained his composure and drank his tea. "Elder Baiji, what do you mean? Can you explain?" "Let me think about it first." Baiji drank her tea. "Why did the Black Heaven sect choose our Heavenly Note sect for the exchange? Is it not better to choose other major sects like Sunset Immortal sect, the Wind Lightning sect, or others? Why come to such a remote place? Is it because you think Heavenly Note sect has a mining area, and beneath the mining area are buried treasures? We even had conflicts with the Saint Bandits recently, and the Sea Fog Cave may be connected to the depths of the sea. Then, there's Devil's Den, which is quite mysterious. Of course, most importantly, the Heavenly Note sect has the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. If these things were just the reason, it might not matter, but when you add them all together, there is reason to believe that there is a gathering of special aura here. So, for a Grand Earth Sovereign to awaken, wouldn't this be a great place?" Nangong Wanwu wasn't smiling anymore. He put down the teacup. He was surprised. He thought this exchange would end even before it officially began. However, Baiji's last sentence surprised him. "The Heavenly Note sect can fully cooperate and even help guide you with the awakening of the Grand Earth Sovereign." Those words left Nangong Wanwu astonished. The young woman standing behind him was also shocked. Why would the Heavenly Note sect agree to this? The appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign was not something small. She wanted to ask why, but she couldn't. Nangong Wanwu also wanted to ask the same questions, but he didn't. Instead, he asked about something else. "Elder Baiji, how do you think we should proceed? Is this reign directed at the Black Heaven sect?" Baiji smiled and asked. "Yes." Nangong Wanwu nodded. "After a while, the Black Heaven sect will send some strong individuals here. They'll follow the Heavenly Note sect's instructions, of course. They will also provide many treasures, pills, and spiritual stones as an apology. Our sect's foundation is lacking, and it is quite difficult to teach many disciples." Baiji sighed. "Our Black Heaven sect has some idle people who want to teach disciples, And we also have some resources. I don't know if your esteemed sect would find it acceptable. We also don't know how to arrange these resources, so we hope for your help, Nangong Wanwu said. Then, we'll respectfully accept your offer. Baiji nodded with a smile. Our sect has a formation that can mobilize various treasures. Perhaps it can make the aura more noticeable, but it consumes a lot. We, the Black Heaven sect, will bear the burden for the smooth exchange of disciples between sects, Nangong Wanwu said. After that, they talked a bit more. Baiji's proposals were not unreasonable, and Nangong Wanwu agreed to all of them. After everything was settled, Nangong Wanwu finally asked what he had been wanting to ask. Elder Baiji, aren't you worried? Worried about what? Baiji asked in return. The appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign, Nangong Wanwu said. Baiji smiled and recalled the sect master's words. Her expression was calm, and her tone was indifferent. What about it? After the heavy rain, Jiang Hao noticed that many people from the Black Heaven sect had arrived. There were a lot of them. There were countless powerful individuals, each of whom seemed to be able to overpower him. With so many powerful individuals walking into the sect so arrogantly, it made people uneasy. If they started fighting inside, the Heavenly Note sect would suffer a great loss. Elder Baiji wasn't foolish. She wouldn't put them in a precarious situation. Whatever he could think of, the sect master would have thought about it as well. But they still proceeded this way. It indicated that there must be some vested interests involved. As the powerful individuals entered, the people from the Black Heaven sect became more active, especially those who were keeping an eye on him. This time, it was different from last time. Someone was really keeping an eye on him. It seemed like they were waiting for the right moment to strike. Jiang Hao saw even more people coming, and one of them was particularly familiar, but the person looked unfamiliar. It seemed to be the person who was keeping an eye on him. That person walked toward him. He was flanked by two primordial spirit realm experts. Although the eye contact was brief, Jiang Hao knew that this person was going to act tonight. Tonight, I'll find a place with no one around when I go back. He didn't want to go through all this trouble, but dragging things out wasn't an option either. Friend Jiang, it's been a long time, said a loud and clear voice. At that moment, a handsome and imposing man walked over and stood in front of Jiang Hao. He was very courteous. It was Shenyuan Tai. He was at the early stage of the Soul Ascension realm. His arrival drew everyone's attention. Just standing there made him seem like an emperor. Everything around him just faded in the background. He was already the center of attention, and what was even more surprising was that he approached Jiang Hao. Chapter 570 Gui enters the Heavenly Note sect. Chapter 570 Gui enters the Heavenly Note sect. At the Heavenly Note sect's mountain gate, there were numerous stone pillars. They were surrounded by rocky mountains. The place looked majestic. At that moment, there were quite a few people gathered here, and everyone's gaze was fixed on a disciple guarding the gate. In front of him stood an extraordinary, handsome man with a faint golden aura surrounding him. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly as he looked at Shenyuan Tai. Suddenly, he felt as though all eyes were on him. There were many people around, and he wasn't sure if it might attract trouble. Friend Shenyuan, Jiang Hao responded politely. He didn't mention the ancient flower from the Shenyuan clan. They had only talked about it in the dungeon. They weren't particularly close. It seems like you're in trouble, friend Jiang, Shenyuan Tai said as he looked toward the three people at the side. Perhaps there's a misunderstanding, friend Shenyuan. Jiang Hao shook his head. He had no intention of letting anyone know that he had noticed something. Shenyuan Tai nodded. I heard that you had conflicts with our sect. It's just a misunderstanding, Jiang Hao said. At that point, others felt something was amiss. It seemed like they were here to inquire, and yet they were being extremely polite. But some people don't think so. However, it doesn't matter. Friend, just focus on your own affairs, Shenyuan Tai said with a smile. What I said earlier still counts. What did he say? Jiang Hao was puzzled. Many years had passed, and he couldn't possibly remember everything clearly. After thinking for a moment, he thought that Shenyuan Tai was trying to win him over. But why? Shen Yuan-tai left, and the people around dispersed. Many people didn't understand the relationship between the two, but one thing was evident: Shen Yuan-tai was standing up for Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao also noticed that the person who had been watching him looked very displeased. It seemed like Shen Yuan-tai's words had put him in a difficult position. Do you know Shen Yuan-tai, junior brother Jiang? Xia Kun asked curiously. Do you all remember the ambush at the mine many years ago? The one where we were attacking Azure Mountain, said Nan Yushu. Remember, it said that at that time, the heads of various sects were lurking in the mine and waiting for them to arrive. In the end, they were all captured. Kong Hu said. At that time, junior brother Jiang made significant contributions. Yes. Nan Yushu nodded. At that time, Shen Yuan-tai was an important member, and he could have escaped by chance, but he happened to encounter junior brother Jiang and was captured in the end. They probably met like that. Jiang Hao felt a bit embarrassed listening to this. At that time, he was definitely not a match for Shen Yuan-tai. Even if he had hidden his strength, he was only at the middle stage of the Golden Core realm, while Shen Yuan-tai was at least at the late primordial spirit realm. Such a powerhouse was not someone he could be presumptuous with. Everything was just a coincidence, plus senior brother Manlong was present. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unthinkable. After exchanging a few polite words, the conversation ended. At night, Jiang Hao deliberately chose a darker path and planned to use the heavenly cauldron to imprison those who intended to harm him and then assess the situation. However, after waiting for a long time, the person watching him never appeared. Even when he walked back to the previous path, no one appeared. Jiang Hao couldn't help but sigh. It's probably because of Shen Yuan-tai. Because of the ancient flower, it was understandable that Shen Yuan-tai would want to help him. After all, he was a decent person. Jiang Hao thought about Shen Yuan-tai back in his courtyard. He had a high chance of becoming the Grand Earth Sovereign. However, it wasn't an overnight process like building a foundation. It might take time. There would undoubtedly be other competitors. I wonder what kind of people the other competitors are. If the Grand Earth Sovereign had no grievances with him, that would be great. If there were grievances, it would be quite troublesome. In the following days, more people from the Black Heaven sect came to their sect. This included Shen Yuan-he, who had taught him different languages before. In addition, there were some seniors with good teaching abilities, whose cultivation realms were not high, but they had good reputations. This surprised Jiang Hao and the others. What was even more surprising was that these people started instructing the disciples of the Heavenly Note sect openly. They explained the methods of cultivation publicly and answered all their questions. There were also many cultivation resources. Jiang Hao knew that the Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect must have come to a huge agreement. In other words, the two sides would not engage in a major conflict for the time being. It was all probably for the sake of the Grand Earth Sovereign. The days became peaceful because there were no people from the Black Heaven sect watching them until early March. Jiang Hao stopped a person. She was a disciple of the Black Heaven sect. She looked about 17 or 18 years old and at the Foundation establishment realm. She didn't have a token. The exchange conference is still under preparation. Prior to entering the Heavenly Note sect, you need a token, Jiang Hao said calmly. The young woman in front of him had her hair tied up high. She was wearing a pink dress. She was accompanied by a primordial spirit realm, but there was something unusual about his aura. He seemed to be injured. As for the young woman, she appeared to be at the Foundation establishment realm, but her spiritual energy and lifeblood extended far and wide. Her spiritual energy fluctuated. It far surpassed the strong individuals he had encountered. He had come across this kind of aura somewhere before. I am Baizhu. Are you senior brother Jiang Hao? The incident where you single-handedly defeated 7 disciples of our sect has become widely known, Baizhu said with a smile. Jiang Hao was surprised at her name. She might be Gui from the gathering. She used her real name, but she was in disguise. Could we talk about the token first? Asked Jiang Hao politely. He didn't want to have any dealings with this person, and it would be best not to have any contact, even if she was here to deliver the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Senior Brother Jiang, as a Golden Core Realm Cultivator, do you need to be so polite to a Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator like me? Baizhu asked curiously. A visitor is a guest, Jiang Hao said softly. Oh, then let's communicate with the others, Baizhu nodded earnestly. The last person was another young woman from the Black Heaven sect, whom Jiang Hao didn't recognize. But she did use a token. After that, he sat back down. Gui had arrived. He had to be careful. The opponent was too strong, and he couldn't act recklessly. It would be easy to be noticed. At that point, Baizhu, who had entered the Heavenly Note sect, bid farewell to the senior sister who came out to welcome her. Do you really know the way, junior sister? Please don't wander around, the senior sister said with some concern. Finally, she left. Why did you come here, princess? Qiao Yi asked as she worriedly looked in the direction of the sea fog cave. There's a faint aura of the Saint Bandits there, but it's very weak. However, this place is definitely being watched by the Saint Bandits. Baizhu was somewhat surprised. Qiao Yi, you can perceive it so clearly. I came here to complete a transaction this time and won't delay for too long. This place is very strange, and I don't want to linger, especially when there is a mysterious and unpredictable person lurking around. Chapter 571, Chapter 571, A Roundabout Way. Chapter 571, A Roundabout Way. Are you referring to the person from a while ago? Auntie Qiao asked curiously. Not him, but his related to that other person. Anyway, we shouldn't provoke the person at the entrance. Absolutely do not provoke him. He might even be more dangerous than the mysterious person lurking in the shadows, Baizhu said. Why? Auntie Qiao was quite puzzled. Is he an extraordinary genius? Although the princess displayed extraordinary knowledge and knew a lot of information, and she claimed to be the #1 genius of the royal family, she had not seen the princess take action so far. Auntie Qiao couldn't speculate on what kind of person the #1 genius of the royal family was. But given her confidence, why would she be wary of a Golden Core Realm Cultivator? Even an extraordinary genius wouldn't dare to press too hard on him. Otherwise, Baizhu sighed. If the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl erupted, being a genius would be of no use, especially since the one with the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment wasn't ready yet. To suppress the Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl, the one with the Heavenly Dao Foundation establishment cultivator would have to become one with great luck. Those from the Black Heaven sect were really ignorant. Is it really that great? Auntie Qiao asked. Baizhu looked relaxed as she walked along the road. Yes. If he were to fall into despair, he might just drag the entire southern region down with him. Whether one is a cultivator or not, they would all perish, Baizhu said while rolling her eyes. Auntie Qiao was somewhat helpless. She felt that the princess was joking. But that didn't matter. At least, the princess had allowed her to follow her this time. In the future, things would become clearer. Speaking of which, the Black Heaven sect and Heavenly Note sect seem to be cooperating closely. It seems they've reached a consensus, Baizhu said in surprise. What kind of consensus? Auntie Qiao asked. Did I not mention it? Baizhu asked. I forgot. It's very simple. The Shenyuan clan may be about to produce a Grand Earth Sovereign. A Grand Earth Sovereign? Auntie Qiao exclaimed. Is the princess here to sabotage them? Baizhu rolled her eyes. Although I am the #1 genius of the royal family, I don't dare to be so reckless in someone else's territory. The Heavenly Note sect has been on the rise, even if it doesn't look very powerful. But everyone who has come here hasn't gained any benefits. Even the Divine Corpse sect had its teeth broken and had to swallow them. This indicates that the Heavenly sect's Demoness, who has been secretly in seclusion, is definitely still alive and well. How can I contend with that? Then, Baizhu looked towards the place where the Black Heaven sect resided. Come, let's go greet the elder. After completing the mission, we'll leave as soon as possible. Outside the Heavenly Note sect, some people were standing there and looking silently at the location of the Grand Formation. Where's Mi Qian? Said a middle-aged man with a solemn expression. He was captured, said a woman beside him. It seems that the Black Heaven sect's people discovered him while he was teaching, and he was captured. The Shenyuan clan knows a lot about us. No one expected the cooperation between the two sects to be so close. I thought their relationship was quite tense. The Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect had fought openly and secretly many times. The Heavenly Note sect had killed many members of the Black Heaven sect, and the Black Heaven sect had ambushed the Heavenly Note sect several times. Although it wasn't to the point of relentless enmity, such a close cooperation shouldn't have been possible. There isn't a big grudge between sects, the middle-aged man said coldly. If the benefits are sufficient, they can band together. Elder, what do we do now? Another young man asked. The rain has fallen, and our people are on the way. The Shenyuan clan wants to use the luck of mountains and rivers, and will help them change their fate. They will come out to deal with us, Ji Yun said coldly. We just need to sabotage the Shenyuan clan's plans. We can't let the Grand Earth Sovereign appear. We'll at least wait until our celestial spirits reassemble. During this time, find a way to infiltrate that place. Don't let the Shenyuan clan discover them. The others nodded. By the way, Mi Chen mentioned that Jiang Hao is apparently guarding the mountain gate. He is the person Ji Yu Qing mentioned. Almost everyone who tried to test him was killed. This person must have secrets, Miu said seriously. Find a way to capture him and interrogate him, Ji Yun said. Miu nodded. The others didn't care too much. He was just a golden core realm cultivator, and the weakest among them was in the primordial spirit realm. There was no need to worry too much. They just needed to stay vigilant. A golden core realm cultivator couldn't stir up much trouble. At the Heavenly Note sect, where the people of the Black Heaven sect resided, 3 people were in the living room. The leader was a middle-aged man, Nangong Wenwu. On his left was a beautiful woman, Duanmu Xiong, an elder of the Black Heaven sect. On the right was a man with graying hair. He was also an elder of the Black Heaven sect, Shenyuan Hu. The fallen immortal clan will definitely come, and they will send people in soon. Although the Heavenly Note sect will help with the screening, there will definitely be some fish that slip through the net. We also need to figure out a way to find these people, Nangong Wenwu said. Everyone agreed on this, but Duanmu Xiong felt a bit emotional. We still have other troubles here. If we had known that it would go so smoothly here, we wouldn't have made trouble in the first place. That's true. I thought we could use Smiling San Sheng to divert the Heavenly Note sect's attention, but I didn't expect to shoot ourselves in the foot. Shenyuan Hu shook his head helplessly. Let's see how it goes. Nangong Wenwu was resolute. If that person really appears, pretend to struggle and let them take away the Thousand Faces treasure fan. It was important before, but it's not as important now. Focus on the Grand Earth Sovereign. There's no need to take everything. We just need to know what's most important. I'll hand over the Thousand Faces treasure fan to Duanmu, Shenyuan Hu said. He hoped that this time there would be no mishaps. After all, once the Grand Earth Sovereign appeared, it wouldn't be long before the Shenyuan clan would be the center of attention once again. The Black Heaven sect would swiftly become a major force in the southern region. If the Shenyuan clan chose not to leave, then the Black Heaven sect might become a major immortal sect in the southern region. In the eastern region, there were the Clear Sky School and the Bright Moon sect. In the western region, there was the Astronomical Academy. In the northern region, there was the Mountain Sea Sword sect. Only the southern region lacked an important immortal sect. I can't give it to him. Nangong Wenwu shook his head. If Smiling San Sheng finds out that it's really in Junior Xuanyuan's hands, wouldn't he have made a trip in vain? But what if he doesn't find out? Shenyuan Hu thought for a moment. Our plan is to hide the item on me, so he can't find it immediately. But if he knows it's in Duanmu's hands, it's very easy for him to ask about it. He will definitely go and look for it. But if it's so easily obtained, he might intentionally cause trouble, Nangong Wenwu said. If he comes looking, I just have to say, how did you know the item is really with me? That would be enough, Duanmu Xiong said with a smile. If he really finds it, it won't matter to Senior Shenyuan. He will find it amusing. After getting it, he'll be satisfied and leave. On the following night, Baizhu walked through the forest and headed toward Shenyuan Hut's residence. I finally found it. I'll complete the mission today and leave tomorrow. Chapter 572, Chapter 572, Gui is so bold. Chapter 572, Gui is so bold. How dare you, demon? A deep voice echoed in the courtyard. Immediately, a burst of power erupted. All the people around were startled, and no one dared to hesitate for a moment. However, by the time Nangong Wanwu and the others arrived, everything was already over. In a yard, Shen Yuan, who was kneeling. His breath fluctuated, and his skin was covered by a deep black color. He looked to be in pain. A curse. Nangong Wanwu was surprised and immediately went to help suppress it. What happened? Duanmu Xiong was worried. He's here, so strong. Shen Yuan, who struggled to speak. I couldn't even react, and I was defeated. Smiling San Sheng. Nangong Wanwu was quite surprised. Did he come to take the Thousand Faces treasure fan? Yes, but he didn't find it, and he seemed a bit angry, Shen Yuan, who said. The three people were speechless. This was troublesome. If they hadn't switched locations, the other party would have already taken the item. This doesn't make sense. Duanmu Xiong was puzzled. Is Smiling San Sheng really that strong? It must have made a breakthrough after cultivating for so long. Nangong Wanwu thought for a moment. Junior sister Duanmu, you should be careful. He might come after you. Baizhu looked puzzled. It's not with senior Shen Yuan. What's going on? Did I get the wrong information? Or did they anticipate that someone would inquire about senior Shen Yuan and plan accordingly? Baizhu felt it was unlikely. Her source was reliable. She didn't want to believe the information might have been false. Could they be deceiving even their own people? Baizhu felt somewhat troubled. She thought that she would obtain the item tonight and be able to leave tomorrow. Now, it seemed she had to continue investigating. Her cover was already blown, and she couldn't drag this on. Otherwise, it would be a big problem. I didn't expect a simple task to become so complicated. Baizhu disappeared into the darkness. She could only investigate tomorrow and act at night. The only trouble was that the people from the Black Heaven sect would detonately make the Heavenly Note sect search for her. She needed to leave as soon as possible. The next day, Baizhu targeted Duanmu Xiong. However, what surprised her was that it seemed that the people from the Black Heaven sect did not ask the Heavenly Note sect to arrest anyone. Are they aware of their guilt and are hesitant to ask? Smiling San Sheng was brought in by the Black Heaven sect themselves. It indeed seemed unwise to ask the Heavenly Note sect for help. But something doesn't feel right. Could it be a trap to lure me in? Senior Duanmu's place is all right. There's no need to worry too much about traps. I'm just afraid the item might not be here. If it wasn't here, then it might be with Nangong Wanwu. It will be difficult if it's with him. Even if I win, it will take a long time, unless I spend a couple of months preparing in advance. Thinking about spending a couple of months here made her a bit helpless. The Heavenly Fate Misfortune Pearl was one thing, but Jing might be nearby. However, Jing seemed to be held back by something right now. He might not really care about missing one of the major sect events. He even was able to see the Heaven Lock technique. Soon, she arrived at a courtyard. At this moment, she didn't dare to think too much and began to focus on her surroundings. After a quick check, everything seemed fine. Creak. The door opened, and a beautiful woman walked out. Baizhu became more alert. It was Senior Duanmu. She sat by the stone table and took out a pitch-black fan to examine it closely. What use does this fan have? Baizhu's eyes lit up. But she was also a bit worried. She felt like she was being lured in. This task really made her feel exhausted. She felt that these people were much more cunning and sly. For a moment, she couldn't see through them. After waiting for some time and confirming that there was indeed no problem, she walked out. So, the fan is with you. In an instant, she appeared right in front of Duanmu Xiong and took the fan. Then, she backed away a bit. Smiling San Sheng. Duanmu Xiong was surprised. Baizhu checked the fan in her hand and was astonished. It's real. Then, she looked at the person in front of her in confusion. How did you know it was with me? Duanmu Xiong asked. Baizhu became more certain of her guess. These people. They deliberately wanted to give away the fan. It wasn't because it wasn't in Senior Xuanyuan's hands, but rather to make it convenient for smiling San Sheng to take it. The cooperation with the Heavenly Note sect went surprisingly smoothly. It was troublesome to carry the Thousand Faces treasure fan around. Duanmu Xiong didn't know what to say. Never mind about that. I won't fight with you. Baizhu put away the Thousand Faces treasure fan, shook her head, and turned to leave. Is that it? Duanmu Xiong felt baffled. She thought they were going to have a big fight, and she had already asked for help. But the matter with Smilin's San Shens was resolved. She could now focus on the sect's matters. Since the arrival of Gui, Jiang Hao had been waiting. He was waiting for her to deliver the Thousand Faces treasure fan. He didn't know how the other party would send it over. Maybe she would bring it here. Jiang Hao worried that the other party might find an excuse to enter his courtyard. She might find out about the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. However, Gui had various sources of information. Perhaps, she already knew about that. Regardless, he had to be cautious. In these past few days, he had heard that something big had happened in the Black Heaven sect and speculated that Gui was involved. But the Heavenly Note sect hadn't intervened, and he didn't know why. He figured it wouldn't be long before the fan was delivered. While he was thinking about it, two people walked out from inside. The newcomers were none other than the young Baizhu and the other woman beside her from before. She was holding a box and looking at it curiously. Jiang Hao quickly noticed them. Hello, senior brother Jiang, Baizhu smiled sweetly. She looked like a harmless, young girl. Junior sister, are you heading out? Jiang Hao asked reluctantly. It felt strange to call her junior sister. More or less, but there's something else. Baizhu handed over the box. This is for you, senior brother. For me. Jiang Hao looked puzzled. A senior asked me to give it to you. He said it's a gift for you. Baizhu smiled. When Jiang Hao received the item, she leaned over and whispered, Senior brother Jiang, open it and take a look. She really plays the part well. However, Jiang Hao didn't dare to open and check, just in case it was the Thousand Faces treasure fan. That would be disastrous. But he never expected that Gui would be so bold as to deliver the item directly into his hands. Wasn't she worried that something unexpected might happen? You're too cautious. Baizhu chuckled. Then, she walked out of the gate. Goodbye, senior brother Jiang. Chapter 573. Chapter 573. The challenge hasn't started, but the outcome is set. Chapter 573. The challenge hasn't started, but the outcome is set. Gui left and took her entourage with her. Their whereabouts were unknown. Jiang Hao never opened the box, and fortunately, his seniors didn't ask him about it. They knew he had a good relationship with Shenyuan Tai. Jiang Hao himself was on the suspect list, so this wasn't anything out of the ordinary. Suspicions were a daily occurrence. At night, Jiang Hao returned to his house. As soon as he sat down, the beast hopped over. It held a golden ring and earnestly said, Master, I have made an astonishing discovery. An astonishing discovery? Jiang Hao was surprised. He couldn't fathom what this astonishing discovery might be. I found a woman asking about you in secret, the beast said. A woman? Jiang Hao was curious. Is she powerful? The beast said seriously, don't belittle the Lord Beast. She didn't discover you? Jiang Hao asked again. My power of perception helped me, the beast said proudly as it twirled its collar. Jiang Hao lowered his head. The beast had supernatural abilities to deceive perception, and it managed to evade many senses. It couldn't be bound by formations, but with sufficiently high cultivation, one could still detect it. A golden core demon wasn't invincible, and they wouldn't even be able to penetrate the Heavenly Note sect. The person inquiring about him probably had a cultivation realm not exceeding golden core. Maybe they were in the late or peak stage. It was highly possible it was someone from the Black Heaven sect. After instructing the beast to continue investigating, Jiang Hao asked about Linji and the others. Linji was still at the mine. Though life was tough, He was being harassed less because not many people knew him. As for his two friends, they hadn't met yet. Zhao Qingxue was fine. The spirit beast informed Lin Ji about it. This allowed him to concentrate on his training inside. Chu Chuan was different. He was still challenging people everywhere. He kept losing. He occasionally challenged Xiao Li too. Every time, he ended up searching the ground for his teeth. Xiao Li was too heavy-handed. Cheng Chou had successfully entered the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm. After Xiao Li knew about it, she advanced in one night. Jiang Hao thought he could try splitting the fourth form of the heavenly blade. After learning the heaven lock technique, he had a better understanding of many other things. Perhaps in another 2 years, he could fully break down the fourth form of the heavenly blade. After sending the beast away, Jiang Hao appraised the box and made sure there were no issues before slowly opening it. She found a black folding fan. It was most likely the Thousand Faces treasure fan. The Thousand Faces treasure fan was a type of transformation treasure. It could not only change its form but also alter the appearance of its owner. The effect was exceptional. It could transform into various offensive treasures without losing its power. Otherwise, why would the Black Heaven sect value it so much? After midnight, Jiang Hao appraised the treasure once more. If he understood the method of refining, it could become a personal treasure. Because time was short, he could only wait for another day to refine it. Guarding the mountain gate really gave him no freedom. The next day, at night, Jiang Hao began refining the Thousand Faces treasure fan. When it was completely white, Jiang Hao established a connection with the fan. With a casual move, the fan fell into his hands. Then, he slowly unfolded it. Countless figures and numerous treasures appeared on top and quickly dissipated. In the end, some words were revealed, all things returned to one. Closing the fan, Jiang Hao thought of the spirit sword and then applied it to the fan. In an instant, the Thousand Faces treasure fan transformed into a spirit sword. The spirit sword transformed into a half-moon. He swung it, and it felt quite smooth. It was indeed not bad. Finally, he thought about the heavenly blade. It was the most comfortable sword he had ever used. However, the Thousand Faces treasure fan flickered and reverted to its fan appearance. You can't even imitate the appearance of the heavenly blade. Jiang Hao was surprised. It seemed that the heaven blade's appearance and patterns were truly extraordinary. He tried the appearance-changing ability again and found the effect was indeed good. He couldn't tell it was fake. However, he could tell it was disguised. That was sufficient. He had studied the Nameless Manual and the Heaven Lock technique. He saw much more than an average person. After putting away the Thousand Faces treasure fan, Jiang Hao felt that he was the real smiling San Sheng now. In the future, when going overseas, this identity would be quite convenient and would make it easier to interact with all things. After completing all that, Jiang Hao went to the mountain gate. As he passed by, he glanced at the spirit herb garden and made sure everything was fine before flying away. The following days were relatively calm. However, there were too many people from the Black Heaven sect. It made it easy to get in conflict with them. Fortunately, there were no unreasonable people at the mountain gate. Time passed and it was already mid-March. The sect released a message, and the 4 individuals also received the details. Jiang Hao initially thought this exchange had nothing to do with him, but after recalling several events involving him, he fell silent. 5 people from the Black Heaven sect wanted to spar with him. This was no time for subtlety. They had to be direct. Moreover, they didn't need his agreement. The sect had already accepted the challenge. These few matches were unavoidable. Fortunately, they were all at the early Golden Core realm, so it wasn't too dangerous. They need to vent, and I can't appear weak. After some hesitation, he decided to quickly win the first match and make the second one more challenging. He could scrape by in the third, tie in the fourth, and narrowly lose in the fifth. This way, they would let go of their grudge, and they would also understand that he wasn't easy to deal with. All would be well. I also have one, Nan Yushu said helplessly. I don't. Xia Kun sighed. Neltna Duel, Kong who said quite regretful why. Then, the 3 of them looked at Jiang Hao, who had to participate in 5 matches. That was quite a lot. Junior brother, you won't be able to come here at the beginning of next month, Nan Yushu said. Once again, I end up causing trouble for you, seniors, Jiang Hao said apologetically. Haha, it's nothing. Just remember to defeat them all. The Black Heaven sect doesn't take us seriously. Xia Kun laughed. He wasn't joking. Jiang Hao could really win 5 consecutive matches. Before, he had faced 7 people alone, which was extremely impressive. Senior brother, you're being too kind. Last time was just a fluke, Jiang Hao said modestly. The others didn't say much. They just smiled. Half a month later, in early April, Jiang Hao left the mountain gate and went to his master's residence. In the next few days, he needed to focus on accepting challenges. After it was over, he would have to return to guard the mountain gate. This period was very peaceful. Apart from the Black Heaven sect coming to challenge people, no one disturbed him. Hai Ming hadn't visited for a long time, and Jiang Hao didn't know what he was thinking. It seemed like he had given up on advancing their relationship. Gui hadn't appeared either. But compared to him, the situation was more complex within the sect. While guarding the mountain gate, he saw many people sneaking in. Some were following people from the Black Heaven sect, and some were pretending to be the Heavenly Note sect disciples. The fallen immortal clan was probably involved, and there would likely be conflicts in the future. Jiang Hao saw junior brother Han Ming. When he arrived at his master's house, he now exuded a restrained aura and had deep, profound eyes. Junior brother Han, you've grown fast, Jiang Hao said in praise. Han Ming smiled. Unlike you, senior brother, I don't stay in one place. Jiang Hao smiled slightly and nodded in agreement. They were soon called inside. Chapter 574, Chapter 574, Chant Lord Beast's name and defeat your opponent. Chapter 574, Chant Lord Beast's name and defeat your opponent. Jiang Hao saw Xiao Li inside. She seemed drowsy. She turned to look when she heard footsteps and became more alert upon seeing familiar faces. Senior brother. She jumped to Jiang Hao's side and complained that today the beast didn't take her to eat with it, so she had eaten very little. She grumbled that the beast didn't let her use its influence. Jiang Hao listened without saying anything. The relationship between Xiao Li and the beast was quite complex. One dared to speak, and the other believed everything. He didn't know what they had been up to recently. However, it was evident that their master was somewhat helpless when it came to Xiao Li. At the same time, it was clear that their master didn't want to give up on Xiao Li. He was still attempting to teach her. After comforting Xiao Li, Jiang Hao and Han Ming approached their master and paid their respects. Apart from the 3 of them, there were no others present. Master Ku Wu Chang didn't seem to mind Xiao Li's behavior and instead focused on the 3 of them. Starting tomorrow, the grand competition begins. It's mostly proposed by the Black Heaven sect, and we can't refuse to participate. For the Foundation, Establishment and Golden Core Realms, you 3 will represent the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised that it was just the 3 of them. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. Not everyone could participate in the grand competition, as the branches didn't have many disciples. But there was one thing he didn't understand. Han Ming's challenges were reasonable due to his reputation, and he had been challenged because of certain grudges. However, why Xiao Li? Master, why has Xiao Li been challenged? Han Ming curiously asked. Xiao Li was less likely to go outside, and she rarely caused trouble. Exactly. Xiao Li herself was puzzled. Why would someone want to pick on her when she had done nothing wrong? Because Xiao Li defeated many people from the Bright Moon sect in the past, and the Black Heaven sect wanted to give it a try. They probably want to see how talented someone who managed to defeat the Bright Moon sect disciples must be. Jiang Hao now understood. Xiao Li had fought against and defeated many people from the Bright Moon sect in the past. She had won a lot of spirit stones. It had indeed been quite enviable. When the time comes, just do your best. There's no need to burden yourself over it. This time, it's mainly for exchange purposes, So don't go too hard, said Master Ku Wu Chang and looked at Xiao Li. Xiao Li blinked in confusion. Master Ku Wu Chang looked at Jiang Hao. I will explain it to Xiao Li, Jiang Hao said. After a few more instructions, Jiang Hao left with Xiao Li, while Han Ming seemed to have something to consult with their master. Lunchtime is almost here, Jiang Hao said once they were outside. Xiao Li became fully alert, and her stomach growled. When you're fighting people tomorrow, it's best to do it on an empty stomach, Jiang Hao said. Xiao Li nodded quickly. Jiang Hao wasn't sure if she understood what he meant. However, as mealtime approached, she was likely to be even more distracted. I'll go find the beast first. After Jiang Hao let Xiao Li go, she quickly ran to the spirit herb garden. The reason she wanted to find the beast was just so that she could get a bigger portion in the cafeteria. The cafeteria staff did indeed give a small extra portion to the golden core demon. The next day, the competition began in the square. Numerous arenas were already set up there. The disciples of the Black Heaven sect were no less than those of the Heavenly Note sect. Seeing so many people, Jiang Hao felt it was dangerous. Once a fight started, the Heavenly Note sect would be at a disadvantage. Senior brother, my arena is over there. Xiao Li munched on a steamed bun and pointed at a distance. Cheng Chou and the beast also followed her. Later, if you chant my name, others will fall quickly. As they left, the beast guided Xiao Li. The latter nodded. In fact, most of the time, Xiao Li was very obedient. Sometimes she could be a bit rebellious, especially if someone touched her things and if someone messed with her food. She wouldn't say much if it was a friend causing a little trouble. Jiang Hao arrived at his arena. He had quite a few people here, mostly disciples of the Black Heaven sect. 2 matches today, 2 matches tomorrow, and 1 the day after. This was his schedule. At this moment, a woman was standing on the platform. She exuded a majestic aura, and her white dress fluttered in the wind. Despite being in the early stage of the Golden Core realm, she had a presence that made others seem insignificant. Jiang Hao leaped onto the platform. Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts. The woman in white looked at Jiang Hao. Disciple Luo from the Bamboo Jade Peak? Jiang Hao asked. Yes. She nodded. The referee was a late-stage Golden Core cultivator. He looked at the 2 people. You may begin. Whether others had started their fight was not important. They could begin any time. Senior sister, beat him up, said a woman from the audience. Yeah, show this ignorant guy how powerful our Black Heaven sect is, another male disciple shouted. Junior brother Jiang, defeat her. She's just an early-stage Golden Core realm cultivator, said someone from the audience. Jiang Hao turned and saw that it was senior sister Miao and senior brother Mu. Senior brother Mu looked somewhat embarrassed. He pulled Miao Tinglian away. Jiang Hao was somewhat helpless. Senior sister Miao really wasn't well behaved in public. Senior brother Mu was in a difficult position. Disciple Luo snorted and held her sword. Let's begin. Sorry for this. Jiang Hao unsheathed the half-moon blade. Clang. The sound of the sword echoed throughout. He used demonic sound 1,000 miles with the first form of the heavenly blade, moonslaying. Facing such an attack, Disciple Luo was not one to back down. Her sword moved and froze everything around. Others became excited. That was the woman's most formidable move. She intended to defeat her opponent in just 1 strike. However, as moonlight flashed and the ice shattered, Jiang Hao's figure flitted between light and darkness. The blade's intent swept across everything. Boom. The power was shattered by the blade's light. It was just a moment, and Disciple Luo saw a huge blade shadow descending from the sky. Boom. She felt like she would be heavily injured, but nothing changed. Upon closer inspection, she realized the blade was poised near her neck. And immediately after, crack, clang, her sword was severed into 2 sections. They fell to the ground. Some strands of her hair were also severed, and they fluttered away in the wind. She had lost. She felt upset. Then, she put down her sword. I lost. It was a good fight. Thank you. He sheathed his blade and left. Disciple Luo felt disappointed. If she had held on just a bit longer, her loss wouldn't have looked so embarrassing. However, when she turned to leave, she froze. Behind her, the arena had been split in half by a single slash at some point. The deep cracks were too noticeable. Looking at Jiang Hao's departing figure, she suddenly understood why the 7 people had lost to him before. Chapter 575, Chapter 575, The Demoness Laughs. Chapter 575, The Demoness Laughs. Junior brother Jiang, you're truly amazing, said Miao Tinglian as soon as he walked down from the arena. It's indeed true, Mu Qi chimed in. Jiang Hao wanted to say they were just exaggerating, but before he could, Miao Tinglian interrupted him. What do you mean it's indeed true? Didn't you believe my previous compliments? Not entirely. Not entirely. Jiang Hao looked at the two of them and thought it might be better not to stay here and be a bother. Silently, he retreated. He also saw Han Ming and Xiao Li in the distance. Han Ming won easily, and Xiao Li won her fight even faster. The opponent fell with just a glance, and she gave the credit to Lord Beast. In the afternoon, Jiang Hao had one more match. This time, there were fewer spectators on the opposite side. It won't be like this morning, will it? Yeah, I can't bear to stay here. Think about senior sister Luo. She was defeated with just one move. Disciple Luo looked anxious. It was shameful for her to watch these Black Heaven sect disciples and the Heavenly Note sect disciples. What was even more hateful was that their displayed cultivation realms were higher than hers. It made her grit her teeth in frustration. Jiang Hao stood on the platform and looked calmly at the people below. He looked about 25 or 26, but his actual age was hard to determine. His aura was much stronger than Disciple Luo's. Are you ready? His opponent asked softly. Jiang Hao nodded. I'm ready. Then, I won't hold back. Same here. The two of them disappeared. Then, there was a loud bang. There was a clash between sword and blade. The shadow of the blade spread, and the sword's momentum was fierce. Boom. Their figures suddenly appeared and disappeared. The surrounding platforms were struck by the force. This momentum was much fiercer than in the morning, and many people began to have hope. However, just when they thought there was hope of winning, suddenly, the person fell from midair. He fell to the ground with a thud. A long knife was placed at his throat. This was a good fight. Thank you, Jiang Hao politely said. Winning this time made him feel a bit strange. As he left the platform, he looked up and felt an inexplicable force gathering around him. It seemed that the more he won, the more this force would accumulate. When it reached its peak, there would be an unexpected effect. Vaguely, he sensed that this force was being tampered with. It was vague, but it was there. Fallen Immortal Clan? So far, it was most likely the Fallen Immortal Clan taking action. They had offended the Bright Moon sect and were still recovering. The Saint Bandits had just been defeated, but the Fallen Immortal Clan had more people. Although they had also appeared in the Bright Moon sect, the vast majority had long since gone into hiding. Jiang Hao walked back. The exchange has just begun, so it shouldn't suddenly erupt into a fight. They'll probably wait. As for whether it was in the middle or at the end, it was unknown. This time he didn't go to see Han Ming and Xiao Li but went straight back. As soon as he entered the courtyard, he smelled a familiar fragrance. Hong Yuye. That was the first thing that came to mind. Sure enough, a red figure appeared in his sight. She stopped to examine the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. She touched the leaves tenderly. Any progress? Her voice was calm. The flower has been growing, but it hasn't manifested yet, Jiang Hao said hastily. He checked on the heavenly fragrance Dao flower occasionally, and so far, he was cultivating it in the best way possible. It was growing slowly, and he couldn't do anything about it. This kind of divine item would be a problem if it grew too fast. For example, the immortal peach tree couldn't bear fruit every year. That would be impossible. So even after several incarnations, it was still just delicious flat peaches. Hong Yuye stood up and walked to the base of the tree and sat on a wooden chair. What about the stone tablet? Jiang Hao realized he hadn't thought much about it, but he still nodded. Yes. There's been some progress. Indeed, there was progress. One was that Hai Ming was an avatar of Feng Hua. The second was that he had obtained the Thousand Faces treasure fan. Jiang Hao chose the latter to disclose first. Immediately, the Thousand Faces treasure fan appeared in his hand. He placed it on the table. I can now contact Feng Hua. Hong Yuye examined it for a moment. Then, she said, let's prepare to make contact. What should I ask? Jiang Hao asked. Hong Yuye looked up at him but didn't say anything. It meant he had to figure that out himself. Jiang Hao sighed. He actually didn't plan to contact Feng Hua so early, but it was okay if Hong Yuye was with him. Moreover, he could sense that Hong Yuye would really be going overseas for a while. Knowing some information about Feng Hua would be enough. If he went overseas, he would get involved in too many matters, which wasn't good for him. He was too weak. He couldn't even protect himself in the southern regions, let alone go elsewhere. But all of this stemmed from him mentioning the Dragon Ball. In reality, knowing too much can lead to things spiraling out of control in a negative direction. Thus, he was forced to accept it. After a while, Jiang Hao set up an array in the courtyard and placed some concealment talismans to avoid being traced. After doing all that, he picked up the fan, and his entire appearance changed. He transformed into a handsome young man who appeared scholarly. He held a white paper fan. You really look the part, said Hong Yuye as she sipped her tea. Senior, you flatter me, Jiang Hao said awkwardly. This appearance was actually an image from the fan. Once everything was ready, Jiang Hao activated the array and began to contact the person on the other side. The formation would be able to transmit images from the array. Otherwise, he wouldn't need to change his appearance. After activating the array, Jiang Hao's aura also changed. He smiled. He looked like a scholar who was calm and composed, yet unrestrained and defiant. This was a simulated appearance of smiling San Sheng. The array emitted a light. Jiang Hao hadn't made any changes. It was like the array was resonating with something else. The core of this resonance was in the Thousand Faces treasure fan. In a breath's time, a virtual figure appeared in the array. The figure was wearing a black robe, and their face was not visible. The figure was almost to Jiang Hao's height. Smile San Sheng, you finally contacted me. Jiang Hao wasn't worried. He had prepared for this. He didn't say much and just replied with a half smile. I heard that you got the Thousand Faces treasure fan, so I've been waiting for you, Feng Hua said slowly. He wore a black robe as if hiding in the darkness. Jiang Hao smiled coldly. It seems you're very concerned about the Heavenly Note sect. Are you here already? I said I'm not. Don't you believe me? Feng Hua asked. Jiang Hao placed the Thousand Faces treasure fan behind him. I'm here now. How about a meeting? Let's just talk about the transaction. I'm also worried about meeting you. Feng Hua rejected him outright. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Have you taken on the mission from the end of all things? Chapter 576, Chapter 576, The Demoness' Strange Stare. Chapter 576, The Demoness' Strange Stare. The person on the other side fell silent for a moment. Do you really want to know? Jiang Hao just smiled. Don't you find the Heavenly Note sect interesting? What's interesting about it? Feng Hua asked. Jiang Hao grinned wickedly. For example, isn't it interesting that you have an avatar here already? Feng Hua fell silent for a moment. Then, he chuckled. Do you think I care about an avatar? You don't care. Jiang Hao looked surprised. That's good, that's good. I thought our cooperation would end because of a lifeless avatar. Feng Hua looked at the person in front of him. Jiang Hao couldn't see the person's face, but he could sense his gaze. What kind of person was smiling San Sheng? He was mad and never accepted threats from anyone because he threatened others instead. He did whatever he pleased, regardless of the consequences. So, Jiang Hao couldn't be as polite. He needed to be radical. He needed to come off as insane. All that remained in smiling San Sheng was a wicked nature. Under normal circumstances, he indeed couldn't be this unrestrained because there were too many things to consider. If his strength was not enough, his location would be easily revealed. But today, Hong Yuye was here, so he didn't need to worry too much. He just needed to give a convincing performance. Feng Hua looked away. Tian Chen is the one who is most concerned about the Heavenly Note sect and also issues tasks most frequently. As you know, sometimes I only help with the communication of the specifics as the middleman, with the details being exchanged by the parties involved. I don't know much. Is that so? Jiang Kao smiled. Let me tell you something. In fact, I haven't been near the Heavenly Note sect for a long time. Haha. Feng Hua was speechless. I know you're looking for a fish person. Would you like to hear the secrets I know? Jiang Kao asked. I've given you something. You wouldn't tell me you don't know anything in return, right? Feng Hua asked warily. Wouldn't that be betraying your partner? Do I seem like that kind of person? Jiang Kao asked. Feng Hua chuckled. What do you want? All the information about Tian Chen, Jiang Kao said. For a moment, the figure fell into silence. At that moment, Jiang Kao suddenly felt his body's strength draining away. The Thousand Faces treasure fan needed power to sustain itself. Is this person trying something? He found it strange. The figure seemed to be pausing frequently to test how long Jiang Kao could put this up. Fortunately, he had the reappearance of the hidden spirit ability and could endure it for quite some time. But it was still affecting him. This way of communication was consuming his strength. Under the immortal peach tree, Hong Yuye put down her teacup. She then placed her fingers in Jiang Kao's teacup and gently stirred it. Immediately, a drop of water appeared. In the blink of an eye, a drop of water landed on Jiang Kao's fan. The consumption stopped. He was as steady as Mount Tai. Take your time to consider. I'm in no hurry. Jiang Kao sensed the change and slapped the fan against his other hand. Feng Hua was taken aback. I won't reveal Tian Chen's information. You can find out for yourself. However, he has a fatal weakness. When he was young, his family was attacked by the residual impact of a cultivator. He witnessed his parents and siblings perish and saw his wife turn to nothing. Only the lifeless body of his son remained. He grew to hate cultivators and wanted to kill every powerful individual. Later, the end of all things found him and helped revive his son. Now, his son is everything to him. Jiang Kao was astonished. Where is his son? You're greedy, Feng Hua said in a low voice. Now, it's your turn. East of the Heavenly River, Jiang Kao said promptly. East of the Heavenly River? Just that. Feng Hua asked. Isn't that enough? Jiang Kao smiled. Do you need to think about what east of the Heavenly River means? Feng Hua thought about it. What is it? Jiang Kao shook his head slightly. It's your turn. Chaos Stone Island, 7-Day Village, Feng Hua said. Jiang Kao said, Dragon. The two fell into silence. Then, the contact began to disconnect. Until next time, Feng Hua said. The transaction was now over. Until next time, Jiang Kao said. When everything disappeared, he erased the array. After restoring his appearance, he looked at Hong Yuye and thanked her. Thank you, Senior, for lending a hand. Without Hong Yuye, he wouldn't have been so composed. However, what surprised him was that this person had been staring at him. And he didn't know what she was looking at. After a little while, Hong Yuye picked up her teacup. Tell me your thoughts. Jiang Kao walked to the table and he drank his tea. The words of Feng Hua cannot be trusted in its entirety. Senior. Jiang Kao was a bit puzzled. Hong Yuye was staring at him strangely. Is something wrong? Jiang Kao asked. Hong Yuye had never looked at him like that. A hand suddenly reached out. Delicate fingers pointed at his forehead, and then, bang! Jiang Kao slammed into the wall. It hurt a bit. But why did she attack him this time? Was it because he drank the tea? That was unlikely. He could drink tea if he wanted to. There hadn't been any issues before. Could it be because he drank the tea before he explained everything? That was also unlikely. In the end, he decided it must be the unpredictability of a powerful individual. Jiang Kao sighed and returned to his seat quietly. I think that Feng Hua's words should not be fully trusted, Jiang Hao said. We can choose to believe in a portion of it, and the other party will also undoubtedly do the same. Even this Tian Chen might be a diversion created by him. But even if there's an element of deception, this information still holds value. Finding Tian Chen should provide us with more information. Perhaps we can understand more after finding Tian Chen. Hong Yuye remained calm. But where is Tian Chen? Jiang Hao hesitated for a moment and couldn't come up with an answer. Feng Hua hadn't said anything about it, but there was information about his son. Perhaps we should start by visiting his son, Jiang Hao said. He was supposed to be at Chaos Stone Island, 7-Day Village. Chapter 577, Chapter 577, A Sudden Rise of Power. Chapter 577, A Sudden Rise of Power. Knowing where the island was made everything easier. Compared to Tian Chen, it was easier to get information about Chaos Stone Island. The price for the information would be low too. In fact, there might not be any cost at all. He could ask King Hai Luo. If the island wasn't overseas, he could ask Zhuang Yuzhen. Find out where this place is, and then get ready to go with me, Hong Yuye said. All right. Jiang Hao nodded in agreement. After more than a decade, there was finally progress. 10 years ago, when they went out to search for the stone tablets, they never found out who sent them. They only knew that the Great Thousand God sect had accepted a mission from the end of all things. But the person from the Great Thousand God sect could never be traced. It was not confirmed if it was Tian Chen, but it was a lead, nonetheless. Perhaps through him, they could find out who was behind the stone tablet. What do you think of the Grand Earth Sovereign? Jiang Hao asked. What do I think? Hong Yuye said casually. After thinking for a moment, Jiang Hao expressed his doubts. The Heavenly Note sect has a special force, probably for the Grand Earth Sovereign. Under such power, is it possible for the Grand Earth Sovereign to appear? He had noticed the power when he had won 2 matches today. Although it didn't benefit him much, it could be different for others. If he won the other 2 matches tomorrow, he was sure the power would rise. However, if he lost the last round, the power would transfer to another. If the competitors from the Shenyuan clan fully obtained this power later, they might have a chance to awaken the Grand Earth Sovereign. The Grand Earth Sovereign is similar to the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment, and succeeding is not as easy as you think. But this time, there is hope. Hong Yuye looked up at the sky. It depends on whether they can seize this opportunity. Jiang Hao looked at the sky too. He didn't see much, but he could sense a little with the spiritual energy in his body. Is the fallen immortal clan trying to interfere with this too? Jiang Hao asked. Being able to interfere means there is a similar level of power. As long as the Black Heaven sect or the Heavenly Note sect has the possibility of collaborating, it would be a great help, Hong Yuye said. Do the Heavenly Note sect and the Black Heaven sect have this ability to do so? Jiang Hao asked. Hong Yuye glanced at him but didn't say anything. Didn't she have any confidence in the Heavenly Note sect and the Black Heaven sect? The Grand Earth Sovereign was not likely to awaken in the short term. It would take some time for that to happen. Jiang Hao sighed inwardly, but he didn't think it was a bad thing. The Grand Earth Sovereign would also be watched closely. His appearance in the Heavenly Note sect would surely attract widespread attention. Troubles would arise in the future. Is there any news about the Abyssal Dragon Pearl? Hong Yuye asked. Not yet, Jiang Hao said. Hong Yuye put down the teacup and began to disappear. Before she disappeared completely, she suddenly remembered something and looked at Jiang Hao. Does Feng Hua have an avatar in the Heavenly Note sect? It was a lie, Jiang Hao said reluctantly. To make Feng Hua answer honestly, he had to reveal this matter. He thought Hong Yuye wouldn't ask further. He heard a soft chuckle as she disappeared. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. The remaining task was to find time to ask King Hai Luo and the others, and once the location was confirmed, they would go out. Most likely, they would head overseas soon. The premise was to avoid the collision with the power. If the Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect joined forces to resist the fallen immortal clan, it would be a bloody battle again. At night, Jiang Hao was meditating. He was trying to observe the power condensing around him. Faintly, he felt that it wasn't quite compatible with his purple spiritual energy. After several attempts, he found that this level of power really had no effect on him, and it might even affect the use of the purple spiritual energy. It seems that I mustn't lose in the 5th round. If the great momentum had a significant effect, he would consider keeping it. The next day was the 3rd match. Jiang Hao once again arrived at the arena, and there were more people from the Black Heaven sect watching compared to yesterday. I'd like to see how our genius from the Black Heaven sect loses this time. I bet he'll lose within 10 moves. You think too highly of our genius, don't you? I bet 3 moves. Didn't you see? Disciple Luo surrendering her sword in just 1 move? Where are you guys from? You're clearly not from our sect. Disciple Luo was getting annoyed listening to this. Exactly. How could our sect have people like you? Some disciples nearby rebuked. At this moment, a middle-aged man walked over from a distance and suppressed the 3. They couldn't move and speak. How about this? If you can shut me up, go ahead, one of them said disdainfully. Yeah. Come on. Shut me up, someone said. Boom. I've never heard such a request in my life. The middle-aged man was dressed in the clothing of the Black Heaven sect. He smiled. People around respectfully greeted him as an elder. Among the 3, the one who didn't speak felt wronged. He never made such a request. Jiang Hao looked at these people and found it a bit amusing. Actually, among the 3, only one was from the Heavenly Note sect. The senior should have noticed it, so he just suppressed them temporarily. The opponent for the 3rd match was a woman holding a long spear with astonishing power. This time, there was no introduction. They simply greeted each other, and then the battle began. Radiant light erupted, and the forces clashed relentlessly. At times, Jiang Hao was pressed and fought under the opponent's might. The people below were screaming. They were feeling anxious for their senior sister. But they felt like she had a good chance of winning today. Half an hour later, Jiang Hao smashed the opponent to the ground and shattered her bones. He himself had some wounds as well. Thank you for the fight, Jiang Hao politely said. The opponent was somewhat unwilling, but eventually acknowledged her defeat. Having lost 3 consecutive matches, others were quite frustrated. They wanted to find someone who could defeat Jiang Hao. In the afternoon, Jiang Hao's opponent was a young man. He was in the early stage of the Golden Core realm. Although he appeared young, he was definitely not young in terms of strength. Boom! A fierce battle broke out. This time, the battle lasted for a full hour. Everyone was astounded. When strong individuals clashed, their auras were magnificent, and their weapons rang through the heavens and the earth. The sword and blade movements were astonishing. The sky gradually darkened. The movements of the 2 also slowed down gradually. In the end, after the clash of the blade and sword, both were sent flying by the force due to exhaustion. They landed outside the arena. Although both quickly returned to the arena, they were a bit late. Jiang Hao sheathed his blade and said courteously, "It seems to be a tie." "No. I lost." The young man looked at Jiang Hao and said politely, "If not for your fight in the morning, only I would have been sent flying out of the arena. I acknowledge my defeat." And just like that, Jiang Hao won 4 consecutive matches. The young man had to leave. However, he hadn't gone far when he found Zhu Chan in the arena. There was a significant force gathering around her. Jiang Hao recalled something from the past. He remembered the first time he had appraised senior sister Zhu Chan. At that time, senior sister Zhu had some special traits. Besides being able to sense malice, there was a sentence he remembered to this day. Chapter 578, Chapter 578. Your skills are superior, and I have lost. 1. Chapter 578. Your skills are superior, and I have lost. 1. Senior sister Zhu Chan. Jiang Hao had first met her when he was 19 years old. It was for the mission of growing the divine flower. She was in the middle stage of the foundation establishment realm then. She had always been friendly. At first, her friendliness made people suspicious. However, Jiang Hao realized later that that was her nature. If people didn't have ill intentions toward her, she was willing to help anyone. Now, 14 years have passed, and this senior sister had already reached the peak of the Foundation Establishment realm. Although she still had a long way to go to reach the Golden Core realm, her progression was quite commendable. What was more eye-catching was the power she carried. I wonder if this power can help her rise. With the rise of power, she could leap over the Dragon Gate. Senior Sister Ju Chan's future was limitless. It was just surprising that Senior Sister Ju Chan was an easygoing and low-key person. She rarely even left the White Moon Lake. How could such a person be challenged by the people of the Black Heaven sect? Senior Sister, come on, a crisp voice rang out. Jiang Hao turned to look. He saw a young woman in a white dress. Beside her stood a remarkable young man. Lin Mo and Zhao Qingxue? Jiang Hao thought of Lin Ji in the mining area. Even though Lin Ji had reached the Foundation Establishment realm, he still couldn't compare to these two for the time being. At this point, they were surrounded by a special aura, and their bodies emitted a noticeable power. With a stroke of luck, they had already reached the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm. Having experienced life and death, their future path could be more stable and far-reaching. After watching for a while, Jiang Hao left. Now that Senior Sister Ju's cultivation had strengthened, it didn't seem like she was about to gain the power. Perhaps something is still missing. He saw Han Ming fighting hard. The two were evenly matched, but Han Ming had an unusually concentrated power, and the surrounding mountains seemed to be actively helping him. Spirit of the mountains and rivers? Jiang Hao smiled. Junior brother Han is not far from the Golden Core realm. One had to admit that junior brother Han had good opportunities and worked diligently. He was not comparable to people of the same age. Xiao Li was not seen today. He occasionally heard people talking about the terrifying competition that happened today. You guys haven't seen it. She looks like she's 11 or 12 years old, but when she fights, it's like a demon. At first, the people from the Black Heaven sect were excited and eager to try, but now, they're scared and avoid her when they hear her name. Really? I won't dare to provoke such a person in the future. I haven't seen her strike a second time. I advise you, in the future, when you see a little girl with a beast, stay away. Jiang Hao knew that Xiao Li's performance was being overstated. But Xiao Li, at the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm, could contend with someone in the Golden Core realm easily. Indeed, she didn't even need to strike twice. Fortunately, she didn't hit too hard. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Back in his residence, Jiang Hao sat cross-legged. Although he wasn't injured, he needed to calm the spiritual energy in his body and return to normal. At the same time, he could sense the condensing force. With 4 consecutive victories, he could perceive more things. The force gathered around the Heavenly Note sect and was then applied to them. Once a person's individual energy resonated with the Heavenly Note sect's force, there was a chance to soar. And the person who would succeed would likely be the Grand Earth Sovereign. However, things didn't go smoothly. The Heavenly Note sect's force was tainted by something else, and there was a possibility that it might alter the collective energy. The fallen immortal clan's abilities were not to be underestimated. If they were successful, the Grand Earth Sovereign would be lucky to even survive. I wonder if the Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect have discovered it. Jiang Hao walked to the balcony and looked at the sky. Based on his understanding, he thought it wouldn't be difficult for powerful individuals to notice something like this. It was just a matter of how to counterattack. He had the final battle tomorrow, so this dispute probably wouldn't affect him anyway. He just needed to hold onto the mountain gate when the time came. In the southern part, in the Silent Cloud Mansion, a man in ordinary black clothes took off his hat and sighed. I finally arrived at the Silent Cloud Mansion. This journey was really hard. He looked only 17 or 18 years old. At that moment, he held a long sword. He looked to the south and frowned. A great force is gathering there. Is that the direction of the Heavenly Note sect? It seems extraordinary. I wonder if my wish will be fulfilled. The young man put the sword behind him and walked into the bustling streets. Before long, he stopped. Then, he discovered something in the direction of the Heavenly Note sect. He was quite puzzled. Members of the fallen immortal clan? How did they end up there? What's going on? He didn't care anymore, and he was pleased that the two sides were having conflicts. It seems I need to slow down and see what the outcome is. Regardless of who wins or loses, he would benefit from it. I'll disguise myself and go in and see what the situation is. He started walking toward the direction of the Heavenly Note sect. He quickly disappeared at the end of the road. The next day, Jiang Hao arrived at the arena. This was his final match. From what he had seen earlier, this day's fight was intense. Master, I heard your opponent today is very strong. If you can't beat them, remember to chant my name, and I'll help you, said the spirit beast as it stood on Xiao Li's shoulder. Xiao Li nodded earnestly. The beast is quite useful. Chapter 579. Chapter 579. Your skills are superior, and I have lost, too. Chapter 579. Your skills are superior, and I have lost, too. Jiang Hao glanced at the spirit beast and chuckled. The match hadn't started yet, so he didn't leave immediately. Oh, it's my turn. Xiao Li heard someone calling her name. Placing the spirit beast in Jiang Hao's arms, she ran straight up to the platform. Jiang Hao lowered his head and locked eyes with the spirit beast. Master, isn't this spot for your lady? The spirit beast asked nervously. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. He just grabbed the spirit beast and tossed it aside. Soon the spirit beast was airborne. It was standing on two golden rings. They were its two old collars. Now, the spirit beast wore one collar around its neck, a bracelet on its wrist, and had pristine white feathers on its head. Overall, it looked quite impressive. It really looked like a golden core demon. Master, did you find a lady? The spirit beast asked curiously. Why would you ask that? Jiang Hao looked at Xiao Li. She and her opponent seemed to be exchanging greetings and getting ready for a fight. Xiao Li seemed eager to start but was stopped by the other person. They just continued introducing themselves. They introduced their origin, name, and then their magical treasures. Jiang Hao had no idea when they would start. I heard from the people at the Spirit Herb Garden that you should have children by the time you're in your 30s. It's normal for you to have a lady by now. The spirit beast tugged at the collar on its neck. When will you introduce me to her? I have a lot of potential. Your lady will surely like you more with a powerful spirit beast as a pet. Jiang Hao looked at the spirit beast. He didn't say anything about a lady. The spirit beast nearly lost half its life because of her. If the lady is shy, will you consider getting another lady, master? Asked the spirit beast. I heard there's a suitable one. Would you like to meet her? She holds me in high regard. Jiang Hao looked at the spirit beast in surprise. Who told you this? My friends. I know many things, said the spirit beast as it took out a carrot from somewhere. Just tell me, Jiang Hao said. Sister Miao thinks it's a good idea to start with pets, the spirit beast immediately said. Jiang Hao was speechless. Senior Sister Miao was relentless at this. She was already in love. He didn't understand why she wanted to involve him in this. He was devoted to his cultivation path. He didn't want to find a companion. Moreover, it was impossible. He was poisoned with the Gu poison. Besides, there was Hong Yuye. Which partner would be pleased if Hong Yuye appeared suddenly? Xiao Li disagrees, the spirit beast said. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised. Why does she disagree? I don't know. She just disagrees. She says that others can't be her sister-in-law, said the beast. The spirit beast pulled up its collars. It was happily suspended in the air. Jiang Hao didn't pay much attention to the spirit beast. He was concerned about Xiao Li. The reason she said that might be because she had seen Hong Yuye at his place. He shook his head and looked at the platform. At that point, they still weren't done with introducing themselves. On the other side was a middle-stage foundation establishment realm cultivator. She looked very nervous. I cultivate the heavenly profound technique. I tempered my body at 3, refined lifeblood at 8, and established my foundation at 16. My foundation is solid, and few opponents at the same level can match me. So far, I have defeated 9 opponents at the same level. How about you? Ah! Xiao Li thought for a moment. I have been cultivating for 10 years. My progress isn't as fast. I only established my foundation a few years ago. The spirit beast said my foundation isn't solid enough, and my cultivation isn't fast enough. However, I have defeated many opponents at the same level. Probably. Xiao Li extended her fingers and counted. Maybe more than 10? Oh right, do you know the spirit beast? Jiang Hao was speechless. This young woman was quite interesting. She was probably the wisest in the Black Heaven sect. Xiao Li was no match for her. Are there more matches for Xiao Li? He asked. Yes. 2 more, the spirit beast said. Stay with her, and don't wander off, Jiang Hao said. He then left. He was going to the platform. It was almost time. He had been waiting for the opponent to arrive. This time, he would pretend to struggle a lot and then lose. That way, the force would leave his body. He didn't want it to affect him. However, the person from the Black Heaven sect didn't come to face him. He asked the referee. The referee shrugged. I'll send someone to look for them. Soon, he received a reply. The opponent wasn't feeling well, so the match had to be cancelled. Jiang Hao was speechless. Next time? Isn't that like giving up? Congratulations, junior brother Jiang, on your 5 consecutive victories, the referee said with a smile. He then took out a long spear. The Raging Flame Spear. This is a golden core level magical treasure. It's quite decent. Thank you, senior brother. Jiang Hao took the magical treasure gratefully, but he didn't use it. It seems you prefer using a knife. The referee chuckled. Oh, it seems you don't know me. I'm an immortal soul alchemist from the Candlelight Pill. Pavilion, Bu Yi. Jiang Hao glanced at the person. A little while later, Jiang Hao received 9,000 spirit stones in exchange for the spear. The Raging Flame Spear was worth more than this, but he gave the person a discount. He wanted to build a good relationship. Besides, a Golden Core Realm cultivator wasn't very wealthy. Chapter 580. Your skills are superior, and I have lost. 3. Chapter 580. Your skills are superior, and I have lost. 3. The most important thing was that an alchemist was quite powerful. In the future, if Jiang Hao needed help with alchemy or pills, it would be easier to ask this person for his help. Even though it was considered that he had won 5 consecutive matches in a row, the gathering force around him didn't increase. After just 5 matches, I have this many spirit stones. Should I refuse future major challenges? Boom. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted. A graceful figure appeared in midair. It was senior sister Ju Chan. She brandished her sword and the surrounding force moved to her. Her opponent was no weakling either. As they fought, Jiang Hao noticed that the force was struggling. For some reason, senior sister Ju Chan seemed to be restrained. After watching for a while, Jiang Hao realized that the opponent was losing. I feel that she's on the edge of a breakthrough, but others can't trigger all of senior sister Ju's power. Sure enough, senior sister Ju Chan quickly won with remarkable speed. Zhao Qingxue and others were cheering, but senior sister Ju Chan, standing on the platform, didn't seem pleased. She felt like she was about to miss something. Jiang Hao wondered if he could help trigger it. If he were to lose, could he transfer the force that was on his body? After a moment, he realized that it would probably be difficult. In the end, they were not evenly matched. If suppressing the cultivation realm was enough, Elder Baiji would have acted long ago. Senior brother Jiang, I'd like to challenge you. A sudden voice rang out from behind. Jiang Hao turned around to see that it was Han Ming. He was a little surprised. At that moment, Han Ming had restrained his overall power. He was ready to unleash everything at any time. The power of the mountains and rivers was aiding him. That kind of power even surpassed senior sister Ju Chan by a bit but not by much. He also faced the same dilemma as senior sister Ju Chan. It's not suitable for you to challenge me here, junior brother. But I can see someone who is evenly matched with you, said Jiang Hao. Who is it? Han Ming asked. You're at the peak of the Foundation establishment realm, right? Jiang Hao pointed to Ju Chan's senior sister Ju is also at the same stage. Perhaps it will benefit you both if you fight together. Han Ming just glanced at her, and the battle intent surged forth. The sword was drawn, and the wind rose. A chilling presence moved with the wind. The people who were about to leave suddenly noticed something unusual. Ju Chan was also somewhat surprised that someone suddenly took action against her. She didn't dare to hesitate and immediately swung her sword to face the enemy. Boom! Han Ming stood on the platform. His power began to surge. The sudden turn of events startled the people of White Moon Lake. Han Ming of the Cliff of Broken Heart? Someone recognized him. However, Han Ming had already launched an attack. The people below began to get angry. What's wrong with the people from the Cliff of Broken Hearts? There was even a Golden Core Realm cultivator ready to intervene and suppress Han Ming. When Jiang Hao was about to intervene, someone placed a hand on his shoulder. An icy aura spread out and made the onlookers shiver involuntarily. Senior Sister Lung. Jiang Hao lowered his head. No one should interfere, Senior Sister Lung said softly. Ju Chan clearly felt that the thing she had previously suppressed was stirring once again. Without hesitation, she went all out to face it. She even immersed herself in that feeling. At this moment, she felt an unprecedented clarity, as if she had divine aid. The surrounding force moved with her, and the power surged. Chapter 581, The Boldness of the Grand Earth Sovereign. Chapter 581, The Boldness of the Grand Earth Sovereign. The whole arena was in turmoil. In the high sky, two figures clashed with their swords. Ju Chan stood at a higher position and wielded her spirit sword. Each strike could stir the surrounding force and unleash colorful rays. On the other hand, Han Ming rose against the tide. His sword embodied grand power and cut out the contours of mountains and rivers with every strike. The collision of these powers set the surrounding sky and clouds in motion. Although their cultivation realm was only at the Foundation establishment realm, they instantly drew everyone's attention. Jiang Hao stood in place. He felt moved. Ju Chan was exerting her energy. Each of her sword strikes was changing. Her cultivation became increasingly refined and solid. Han Ming did not experience a sudden breakthrough as Ju Chan did. However, he unleashed the accumulation of his previous abilities. Indeed, they are worthy of being the top disciples. With normal talent, it would be impossible to achieve what Han Ming did. He forcefully blazed a path far beyond everyone else. With the same talent and opportunities, others would likely face some trouble in breaking through to the Golden Core realm, but not Han Ming. As for who would win, in Jiang Hao's opinion, Han Ming had a higher chance. However, the commotion here had attracted a lot of spectators. It made Jiang Hao reluctant to stay back. The cultivation of Disciple Lung was even more shocking. He rarely encountered such a cultivation realm. While he didn't know for sure, he guessed it was beyond Soul Ascension realm. Although he was curious, he restrained himself. It was better to pretend not to know these things. In the distance, Shenyuan Tai arrived at the platform with Shenyuan He. They were among the first to notice Ju Chan and Han Ming. These two are quite extraordinary. They are actually using the grand force to rise rapidly, Shenyuan He said in surprise. But both of them are disciples of the Heavenly Melody sect. Doesn't matter. We also had someone from the Black Heaven sect yesterday, Shenyuan Tai said gently. It seems the elders didn't expect that the convergence of grand force would provide many disciples with opportunities. They are now considering whether to let more disciples in to see who can stand out. Wouldn't that mean many people will share the grand force? That's not beneficial for you. Shenyuan He frowned. The two of them are very noticeable now. Once a few more join in, the assistance the grand force provides will lessen for you. You agree to that, senior brother? Why are they asking me if I agree? Shenyuan Tai chuckled. Because we're all hoping it'll be you, said Shenyuan He. Yes. They did ask for my opinion. And what did you say, senior brother? I don't see why we can't give it a go. Shenyuan Tai nodded and looked at Ju Chan and the others. It's not a big deal. The Grand Earth Sovereign is not a big deal. Shenyuan, he was puzzled. Shenyuan Tai burst into laughter. He looked at his junior. If you don't take a leap of faith, how can you become the Grand Earth Sovereign? Shenyuan Tai extended his hand. If all you see is sand in your hands, how will you claim the vast land? If you think you'll fail just because of something like this, are you truly a Grand Earth Sovereign? Shenyuan, he stared at her senior in a daze. At this moment, she felt that her senior brother was somewhat different from everyone else. It seemed like he was really the Grand Earth Sovereign. Shenyuan Tai retracted his hand. Don't think about these things for now. Didn't we agree to compensate disciple Jiang properly this time? Yes. The reward is the scorching sunfire gun. Regardless of success or failure, it will end up in his hands. I've already bribed our juniors. If he wins, the gun will be sent to him. It will represent our gratitude, said Shenyuan he. Shenyuan Tai nodded. Jiang Hao's favor to them was too great. It was impossible to repay it all at once. Other matters would have to wait. Jiang Hao looked at the arena, where light flashed and collided. The two were evenly matched, and the outcome ultimately depended on the individual. Regardless of the result, Han Ming's strength had greatly improved. He had reached the Golden Core realm within the last year or two. Everything was happening right on time. If Jiang Hao went overseas with Hong Yuye, he could display his cultivation at the Golden Core realm. It would be believable. He didn't wait for the end and turned to leave. He was about to go out, so it might be safer to advance to the return to Void Realm. Overseas was not a safe place, and pretending to be smiling San Sheng without the power of return to Void Realm might turn out to be dangerous. However, it wasn't easy to advance. Currently, he had two options: planting more spirit herbs or going to the mines. Planting spirit herbs was somewhat difficult. They rarely produced blue bubbles unless he planted a lot of them. For that, he would need to contact someone at the Candlelight Pill Pavilion. Alternatively, he would need to convince his master or other seniors to bring in a large batch of high-grade spirit herbs. As for mining, it wasn't as fast as before and wasn't easy to do. He still had to be vigilant because of Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao arrived at the Lawless Tower. The 5 matches had already ended, so he could attend to his own affairs for a while. He wanted to ask about the Chaos Stone Island. When he arrived at the 5th floor, he saw Heavenly King Hai Luo arguing with Zhuang Yuzhen. The Heavenly King grumbled that a mere early-stage primordial spirit realm cultivator wasn't worthy of his attention. Zhuang Yuzhen sat against the wall as usual. He didn't speak much. Nangong Yu's cultivation had also dropped to the middle stage of the primordial spirit realm. It wouldn't be long before she reached the early stage. At this point, Heavenly King Hai Luo's cultivation at the late stage of the primordial spirit realm. When Jiang Hao arrived in front of them, all 3 of them looked his way. Your master is here. Speak louder. Nangong Yu sneered. She could see that Heavenly King Hai Luo was genuinely afraid of Jiang Hao. A mere Golden Core realm cultivator actually had such capabilities. Jiang Hao went straight to Heavenly King Hai Luo. He didn't care about what the others thought. I'd like to learn more about overseas from you, King Hai Luo. Just that. Heavenly King Hai Luo asked tentatively. Yes. I just want to understand the names of some places. Jiang Hao nodded. Heavenly King Hai Luo laughed loudly. You can ask anything you want to know. This king loves answering questions when he's free. He conceals nothing. Nangong Yu looked at him indifferently. Have you heard of Chaos Stone Island? Jiang Hao got straight to the point. He wasn't worried about anyone else finding out. Chaos Stone Island? Heavenly King Hai Luo was somewhat surprised. The Chaos Stone Island related to the end of all things? Jiang Hao was surprised. He had thought it was just a simple island. He waited for Heavenly King Hai Luo to continue. Chaos Stone Island is within the Chaos Stone Storm. Only one ship goes there each year. It is used by the end of all things for external trade. This trade includes many things. Everyone knows that the end of all things does everything, so everything is available as long as you have enough spirit stones, Heavenly King Hai Luo said. Jiang Hao was surprised. Even if everyone despised the end of all things, they still traded with them. The end of all things had everything. However, having to take a boat there indicated that the place wasn't easy to enter and exit. It was possible that he might not return. Chapter 582, The Terrifying Gaze of the Strong. Chapter 582, The Terrifying Gaze of the Strong. Many people have offended the end of all things. Ordinary individuals cannot buy a ticket to go there. They need a recommendation or an invitation, said Heavenly King Hai Luo. Jiang Hao nodded. That made sense. Going in there causally would be madness. However, there was a problem. There were undoubtedly many formidable figures in the end of all things territory. It would be quite troublesome to engage in a conflict. It was uncertain whether Hong Yuye would intervene. If he couldn't handle the situation and had to rely on the golden rings to escape, he didn't know if it would anger her. However, I know a secret about Chaos Stone Island, Heavenly King Hai Luo whispered. I heard that beneath Chaotic Stone Island, there's a dragon sealed. A true dragon. This true dragon might have been to the Abyssal Sea and knows the secrets found there. Jiang Hao was surprised. Heavenly King Hai Luo seemed to know quite a few secrets. However, he rarely heard people mention the Dragon Clan. Dragons were quite rare. He was curious about why Xiao Li, as a young dragon, ended up in the southern region. Do you know about the Dragon Clan? Jiang Hao asked. He wanted to know how to get a ticket, but that would be too obvious. So, he gave up. He decided to ask about it during the gathering. Liu had significant status overseas. He might be able to help. The Dragon Clan? Nangong Yu said. I know about it, but I want to know what that person said. Do you know about the Dragon Clan as much as I do? I love answering questions, said Heavenly King Hai Luo. Nangong Yu said indignantly, you're a king, yet all you do is grovel. Don't you feel ashamed? Each of the 12 kings of the overseas realm is the generation's hero. You're simply disgracing yourself. You think I'm groveling? Heavenly King Hai Luo sneered. You're just someone played by me and enraged by your own incompetence. I've figured you out now. You're all talk, but you do nothing, Nangong Yu said coldly. Jiang Hao looked at the two of them, then finally walked to Zhuang Yuzhen. Zhuang Yuzhen was always calm. Although he wasn't calm at the beginning, he gradually learned to hold his composure. He rarely saw him get angry these days. Zhuang Yuzhen used to roar and tell him to get lost in the past. The information about the Dragon Clan is limited, Zhuang Yuzhen said. The Dragon Clan was active many years ago. Later, they disappeared from the view of the cultivation world due to a calamity. It's said to be related to the former Heavenly Spirit tribe. There also seems to be a trace of them in the corpse realm. As for their strength, they're undoubtedly powerful. Many true dragons stand at a position we could never reach in our lifetime. Jiang Hao was somewhat surprised by Xiao Li's strength. However, there were pros and cons to being a true dragon. Xiao Li appeared to be a lower-ranking one. After all, she didn't display any obvious abilities. Besides her fast progress, she was still just like a child. The only special thing was that she could smell Hong Yuye's scent on him. Her rapid cultivation was because she was only recovering her lost cultivation. Jiang Hao left the Lawless Tower after finding out quite a bit of information. Nangong Yu kept calling for him. Jiang Hao didn't care. It would be better if he didn't involve senior sister Yinshaw in these things. This time, Jiang Hao went straight to the mountain gate. I heard that you won 5 times in a row, junior brother Jiang, said Nan Yushu. I was just lucky, Jiang Hao said. The other two also offered their congratulations. Jiang Hao then took out talismans and gave one to each person. It definitely cost a lot of spirit stones to maintain a good relationship. It was just a polite gesture. Everyone understood. I heard that the next matches will be in Primordial Spirit, Soul Ascension, and Return to Void Realm categories. There will be many seniors participating, said Xia Kun excitedly. Unfortunately, "We can't go," said Kong Hu. Everyone fell silent. Jiang Hao also felt a bit regretful. With his current cultivation at the peak of Soul Ascension Realm, he could get information on where he stood by watching the matches between the seniors. Perhaps he stood at the level of 3rd or 4th top disciples, or even 5th. After all, he was stronger than senior sister Yi Yaqing, who was in the 5th position. Boom! Suddenly, Jiang Hao heard a rumbling sound. He looked up and saw the tremor caused by the great force. The force of the Heavenly Note sect was growing stronger. The interference was also getting more intense. I wonder when it will escalate. Once it did, no one would be able to enter through the mountain gate. At this time, outside the grand array of the Heavenly Note sect, a young man carrying a black iron sword sighed. "I'm finally here." It was quite far. He was still enjoying the cake. He occasionally looked up. After finishing the cake in his hand, he walked toward the Heavenly Note sect's great formation. Originally, the mountain formation that could resist external enemies would not be able to stop him. The young man entered the formation with a smile. This formation is not bad. He walked inside and saw the mountain gate. It's not as majestic as I imagined, but it's decent. The young man walked forward and saw 2 people talking on the way. "I heard from outside that the Black Heaven sect is going to produce a grand Earth Sovereign this time." "Really? I don't know if it's entirely true, but the news has spread. I don't know who leaked the information." "That's amazing. But what is a Grand Earth Sovereign?" The 2 men stared at each other. The young man immediately approached the people. "Gentlemen, you just mentioned the Grand Earth Sovereign. Could you explain it in detail?" "Who are you?" asked one of the men. "My master named me Kendo. I am a disciple of the Heavenly Note sect. I just returned from outside," Kendo said politely. "Oh. It is no wonder you don't know about the Grand Earth Sovereign," the young man said respectfully. "The Black Heaven sect is cooperating with our Heavenly Note sect for a reason. That reason must be the Grand Earth Sovereign. As for what that is, we ordinary cultivators don't know." Kendo nodded. "I've heard some things too. The Grand Earth Sovereign is supported by the fortune of the land and bright potential. It's said to rival the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment of the Bright Moon sect." The 2 men were shocked. This senior brother knew quite a lot. However, what was the Heavenly Tao Foundation establishment? The 3 of them walked together toward the mountain gate. Jiang Hao suddenly froze. He realized that someone was approaching, but for some reason, the aura was a bit strange. Among the 3, 2 were unremarkable, but the one on the edge made his scalp tingle with just one glance. A killing intent surrounded the person. It was cold and terrifying. It was difficult to perceive any further extensions of the aura. The person on the opposite side seemed a bit surprised and turned to look. In an instant, their eyes met. Had he been discovered? Jiang Hao felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He felt extremely uneasy. Chapter 583. Chapter 583. Able to split the Heavenly Note sect with one sword strike. Chapter 583. Able to split the Heavenly Note sect with one sword strike. A simple glance carried an unparalleled pressure. It made Jiang Hao subconsciously want to flee from the spot. He had only encountered this level of pressure only once in the Bright Moon sect. Who is it? What are they here for? Should I escape? Questions flashed through Jiang Hao's mind, but he suppressed the anxiety in his heart. He stood up and walked toward the 3 people. A routine inspection. 2 of them were quite surprised at the unexpected inspection, but they quickly cooperated. Jiang Hao simply walked around these 3 people. He didn't ask anything. However, he glanced at the iron sword in passing, and it frightened him. The overwhelming killing intent was apparent. It was as though this single sword could split the entire Heavenly Note sect. Though it was just a feeling, the power it conveyed was far beyond what the Heavenly Note sect could withstand. He just couldn't understand why such a person came to the Heavenly Note sect. Was it for the Heavenly Fragrance Tao flower or something else? If it was really for the Heavenly Fragrance Tao flower, he was helpless. Jiang Hao wanted to become stronger. I am Kendo, and you are? Kendo asked with a smile. I am Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts, Jiang Hao said politely. He dared not be negligent. I see, junior brother Jiang. Don't be nervous. I mean no harm, Kendo said gently. Jiang Hao didn't respond. He knew the other party had sensed his gaze. He was unsure if this was a test. What's the matter? The woman beside them asked. Jiang's attention, said with a smile as he straightened his clothes. In an instant, everything disappeared from Jiang Hao's sight. The killing intent, sword intent, and spiritual energy dissipated without a trace. Now, looking at Kendo again, he appeared to be an ordinary middle-stage Golden Core Realm cultivator. However, the more ordinary he looked, the more Jiang Hao was concerned. Few strong individuals could remain completely unnoticed under his current gaze. He had learned the Nameless Manual and the Heaven Lock technique, and his state of mind had made leaps and bounds. His perception was also very keen now. The three people did not linger and proceeded further inside. On the way, the woman asked Kendo curiously, Senior brother, which sect are you from? Her sect. Kendo said, my master passed away early, but he had high hopes for me. He hoped that I would traverse mountains and cross seas. Your master passed away early? The two of them were puzzled. In their generation, it was rare not to have a master. Which sect's master passed away that early? Jiang Hao watched them depart and felt a sense of relief. The person truly seemed to mean no harm, but such a person made him feel uneasy. I need to be more cautious in the future. I shouldn't let such powerful people detect my gaze. He had been careless and had been noticed for being able to detect certain things. If he encountered someone with ulterior motives, the consequences would be dire. He needed to be more careful. When he returned to his seat, senior sister Nan Yushu asked if everything was all right. Jiang Hao simply said that everything was okay, and the other person had just been curious about something. The arrival of the mysterious person made Jiang Hao uneasy. Currently, in the Heavenly Note sect, the Black Heaven sect, the Fallen Immortal clan, and other powerful individuals were gathered. There would definitely be a major battle in the future. He had to avoid the outbreak of the battle. In the early stages, it was the most dangerous, as the existing defenses would shatter, and the new defense systems had not yet taken shape. When strong individuals clashed, many people would die. He also had to be wary of Hai Ming. I need to find a way to advance as soon as possible. He looked at his interface. Still a long way to go. Jiang Hao looked at his cultivation and lifeblood. He felt that advancement to the next realm was still a bit too far away. Even if he figured something out, it would be difficult to advance in a short time. It seems I can only advance before going overseas. During this time, besides trying to obtain bubbles, I need to obtain some teleportation talismans. Since it was challenging to enhance his strength, he would use external items to compensate. He could also try to comprehend the Heaven Lock technique. It was the most powerful technique he had. At the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, Buyuyi looked toward the mountain gate with a complicated expression from a courtyard halfway up the mountain. A few days ago, he bought a magic treasure. The person was very polite and knew how to handle things. He even got a discount. He's a good junior disciple. The reason he bought it was to get better at alchemy. He had volunteered to be a referee because of this magic treasure. After his inspection, he discovered something. This matter had made him uneasy for a long time. And now, he was even more conflicted. When he got back the magic treasure, he treated it as an ordinary one. However, after the inspection, he unexpectedly found that there was a spatial medium in this magic treasure. It was similar to a storage treasure. This would enhance the value of this magic treasure, but that's not what bothered him the most. After checking the space, he found more things. Cultivation techniques, magical arts, talisman crafting methods, some spirit stones, and beneficial pills for cultivation. There was even a protective magic treasure. It could be said that it had everything one would need. Not a single item was of inferior quality. The cultivation techniques and magical arts were outstanding. Everything was suitable for a golden core realm cultivator. The total value of all these items was far more than tens of thousands of spirit stones, and yet he had only spent 9,000 spirit stones to get everything. He felt guilty and uneasy. After much hesitation, he decided to keep it for himself. Some of these things could help him quickly advance to the primordial spirit realm, and he couldn't afford to let them slip away. However, he needed to do something to ease his conscience. Senior brother Bu Yi, someone called for him from outside. Bu Yi sighed with relief and regained his composure. The person who had come to visit him was a Foundation Establishment realm cultivator. She had her hair in a simple bun. Junior sister Qing, Bu Yi smiled. It's time to plant high-grade spirit herbs again, and we're unable to plant them here. We're considering which branch to go to. Should we continue going to the 100 Bones Forest? This time, the Law Enforcement Hall seems to be willing to let us choose them, Junior sister Qing said. Bu Yi, an alchemist from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, far surpassed others at the same level in alchemy. He was even better than some primordial spirit realm alchemists. So, he had the authority to decide how and where to plant the spirit herbs. The 100 Bones Forest or the Law Enforcement Hall? Bu Yi thought for a moment. What do you think they'll gain by planting high-grade spirit herbs? High-grade spirit herbs have more spiritual energy, which can promote the growth of other spirit herbs. Moreover, high-grade spirit herbs are rare, and it can broaden their horizons for those in the spirit herb garden. During the planting process, they can collect some leftover parts and treat them as materials for themselves. There are many benefits, so the Law Enforcement Hall is willing to offer concessions and invite us to plant there, Junior sister Qing said in confusion. Bu Yi had told her all this before, so why was he asking now? Bu Yi hesitated for a moment. Who's in charge of the spirit herb garden at the Cliff of Broken Hearts? Chapter 584, Chapter 584, Prospects of Advancement. Chapter 584, Prospects of Advancement. The Cliff of Broken Hearts. Junior sister Qing was puzzled. She thought for a moment. Then, she shook her head. Although the Cliff of Broken Hearts is good, their experience is not sufficient, and they may not be able to plant high-grade herbs. It's not suitable. Bu Yi was not in a hurry. He asked about something else. Has anyone chosen to plant herbs there lately? Junior sister Qing said, high-grade spirit herb seeds are rarely planted at the Cliff of Broken Hearts, but it's not unheard of. I heard that even senior brother Lian sent the spirit herbs there once. Bu Yi walked to a nearby chair and sat down. Any more details? It wasn't very complicated, Junior sister Qing said. At that time, it was urgent, and they had no choice but to plant there. I heard it was pretty good, and the time was relatively short, with higher efficiency compared to other branches. But it was not based on experience. The Cliff of Broken Hearts actually suffered a loss. I think it was to pave the way for future cooperation, so they had to endure the loss. Unfortunately, the high-grade seeds from senior brother Lian were not sent there again. It seems they thought the risk was too great. All right. Bu Yi nodded. So, they have collaborated with our branch, and the results were all right, right? Yes, that's right, but, Junior sister Qing wanted to say more. Bu Yi made a decision. Let's go with the Cliff of Broken Hearts for now. Before the collaboration, we need to figure out who is in charge of their spirit herb garden. Senior brother Jiang Hao, junior sister Qing said helplessly. The person in charge of the spirit herb garden of the Cliff of Broken Hearts was senior brother Jiang Hao, but I heard he is guarding the mountain gate for now and may not pay much attention to the garden. I heard this senior is quite capable. Under his management, the spirit herb garden of the Cliff of Broken Hearts has been very stable. When other branches were attacked and damaged before, he was the first to see through it. The Cliff of Broken Hearts also has its advantages, but it's a pity that he's not around lately. There is no rush. Go and ask around. It's best to ask Jiang Hao directly if it's possible. If he thinks it's not suitable, find out why, Bu Yi said. Ask around. Junior sister Qing was astounded. She knew that senior brother Bu Yi had a good opinion of Jiang Hao, but she Needed to warn him anyway. Senior brother, this time the germination of the spirit herbs is extremely important, and we should prioritize using a batch of young shoots. If the quality is inferior to other seniors, then our resource allocation here will be reduced. It may not matter much to us, but it could cause more trouble for you in the future. And we may be ridiculed by others. The Candlelight Pill Pavilion is divided into upper, middle, and lower courts, each with 9 courts. The primordial spirit alchemists are in the middle court's 3 courts, and every court's resources require competition among disciples. You may not care about these resources, but the high-grade spirit herbs still need to be sent over to them. If the final high-grade young shoots are of inferior quality, I don't mind. We can purchase them at a high price later. It won't affect anything. As for the value of those spirit herbs, that is something to consider. No problem. I have my own arrangements. Go and ask. If it's suitable, we can establish long-term cooperation with them, Buyuyi said. Long-term cooperation? Junior sister Qing was baffled. However, under her senior's firm gaze, she had no choice but to nod in agreement. Cooperation? Jiang Hao, who was at the mountain gate, was stunned. He never expected that the alchemists from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion would come knocking at their door during this time. It was a junior who had come looking for him. She looked at him indignantly. Qing Yu, a Foundation Establishment alchemist from the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, with a peak Foundation Establishment realm. Yes. Qing Yu nodded. A batch of seeds has arrived, so I want to ask if the Cliff of Broken Hearts wants to plant them. You may have got the wrong person, Jiang Hao said somewhat helplessly. Whether to accept the offer would depend on the seniors handling the garden. He couldn't make a decision. My senior instructed me to ask you, senior brother Jiang, if you would accept the offer. After all, you are mostly in charge of the spirit herb garden, said Qing Yu. Regardless of how she felt, things still needed to be done. Jiang Hao looked somewhat awkwardly at Kong Hu. You can focus on your matters, junior brother Jiang, the latter said gently. Jiang Hao then stepped aside and began to ask for more details. What kind of spirit herbs did you mention, junior sister? Some spirit herbs couldn't be planted and would result in significant losses. It's high-grade spirit herb seeds. There are 3 types and planting them is not easy. We can provide a general guide, but the rest will depend on you. Of course, if you have any requirements, you can always bring them up, Qing Yu said. At first, Jiang Hao wasn't very interested, but he was taken aback when he heard they were high-grade spirit herbs. High-grade spirit herb seeds? How many are there? A total of 300 seeds, Qing Yu said. So many. Jiang Hao was shocked. This was the largest order he had ever received. Currently, no one dared to plant at the Cliff of Broken Hearts for obvious reasons. May I ask which senior is willing to trust us with such a massive order? Jiang Hao asked curiously. Senior brother Buyuyi, Qing Yu said. Originally, we were going to choose the Law Enforcement Hall, but senior brother Buyuyi insisted on choosing the Cliff of Broken Hearts. He wanted to ask you if you'd like to give it a try. If the planting goes well this time, we can establish a long-term cooperation. Senior brother Buyuyi? Jiang Hao recalled the previous match. He had sold the Raging Flame Spear to the same person. Was he that good? He had given a discount, and the senior was placing such a large order in return. Senior brother Jiang, do you know that this time, the spirit herbs are related to the next round of resource allocation? At this time, senior brother Buyuyi wants to hand over the order to you. You mustn't let him down, junior sister Qing Yu said. Since everything was about to be settled, she needed to let this person know how important this was for them. I need to see the herbs first. I will look at all 3 kinds. I'll give you an answer in 3 days. Will that be all right, junior sister? Jiang Hao didn't let happiness cloud his mind. He needed to understand the situation before committing to it. If it exceeded his capabilities, it would only cause trouble for himself. 300 high-grade spirit herb seeds were not a small thing. If he messed this up, he couldn't afford to pay them in spirit stones. For him, it was a huge sum. If he added up all the spirit stones he had earned, it still wouldn't be enough. Senior brother Bu Yi indeed surprised him by sending him such an order at this time. Moreover, he had addressed it specifically to him. This order came just in time. All right. I will also inform the Cliff of Broken Hearts and make arrangements in advance, Qingyu said. Jiang Hao agreed with a nod. In 3 days, he would appraise the 3 seeds, then he would be able to confirm whether he could grow them. Oh, I need to remind you that the latest time for blooming must be within 6 months. Otherwise, we won't make it in time, Qingyu said as a reminder. 6 months was the deadline. Other spirit herb gardens usually took about 5 months or less. Earlier than that would be impossible. She left 3 seeds and went back. Senior brother Jiang had been amiable and had promised that everything would be fine. Qingyu didn't feel as nervous and stressed as before. But she couldn't understand why senior brother Bu Yi insisted on choosing the Cliff of Broken Hearts. If they failed, it would affect their alchemy advancement. She sighed and stopped thinking about it. After all, she didn't have an answer. However, as soon as she returned to the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, she encountered a disciple with a similar cultivation realm to hers. This young woman was smiling at her mockingly. Senior Sister Qing, I heard that you chose the Cliff of Broken Hearts in the end. Are you giving up in this competition? Really giving up without a fight? Qingyu snorted. You just wait and see. We'll wait for your poor-quality high-grade young shoots, said the woman with a smile. Qingyu turned and left. However, she could hear laughter from behind. Chapter 585, Chapter 585, We Are Your Distant Relatives, 1. Chapter 585, We Are Your Distant Relatives, 1. Qingyu had a smooth discussion with the Cliff of Broken Hearts, and the placement of the order also received attention from some seniors. The Cliff of Broken Hearts also didn't want to miss this opportunity. They had many high-grade spirit herbs in their herb garden, but they had never had anyone foster so many seeds. When these seeds germinated, spiritual energy would gather, and it would benefit other spirit herbs in the herb garden. If this went well, they could establish a long-term cooperation. It was a good start. So, Jiang Hao also received messages from other seniors. They encouraged him, but no one demanded that he must plant them. However, some thought it would be a good idea to let senior sister Miao Tinglian temporarily take charge for a while. After all, when it came to spirit herbs, Miao Tinglian was very knowledgeable. No matter how high his cultivation realm was, he didn't know as much as she did. Unfortunately, no one went to ask because they had asked before and couldn't convince her. And they didn't dare to force it. Her partner, senior brother Mu Qi, was already a powerful person in the primordial spirit realm. His future was boundless. Among the true disciples, he had some say. So, there were no changes on Jiang Hao's side. Everything depended on the results of the appraisal in the next few days. Even though his perception was outstanding, if he didn't have the knowledge, he had to rely on his daily appraisal ability. 3 days later, Jiang Hao kept his promise to junior sister Qingyu. The appraisal results were: these spirit herbs, when planted using the appraisal method, would take about 3 months to take root and sprout. And the quality should be quite good. However, the problem was that it consumed too many spirit stones. Although it was considerably less compared to other high-grade spirit herbs, it still exceeded his capacity. A small bottle of moonlight and dew cost 10 spirit stones, a small bottle of sunflower fiery liquid cost 20 spirit stones, and spirit liquid cost 30 spirit stones. He calculated roughly and found that it would cost over 60,000 spirit stones. He didn't have that much on him, and for a moment, he felt like he would have to give up some of the spirit herbs. However, after looking at the order, the Candlelight Pill Pavilion unexpectedly provided 10,000 spirit stones in assistance, and the Spirit Herb Garden also provided another 10,000 spirit stones. In other words, he only needed a little over 40,000. Even if one seed cost 3, he would still have a surplus of 100. By that time, he would be close to his advancement. It might affect the incarnation of the immortal peach tree, but he hesitated for a moment and decided to use them all. 3 months later, he might go overseas. At that time, the things on him could also be sold, so he didn't have to worry about not having enough spirit stones. Even if it really did affect his gains, it wouldn't be a big deal. He always had next year. He could wait. After accepting the spirit herbs, he instructed everyone to let him plant all these spirit herb seeds. Cheng Chou and the others naturally had no objections, and although junior sister Qing Yu was worried that Jiang Hao wouldn't have time, she agreed as well. Around mid-April, all the spirit herbs were delivered to the spirit herb garden. Jiang Hao personally came to handle everything, and when everything was in order, he instructed people to purchase moonlight and dew and sunflower fiery liquid. As for the spirit liquid, he wasn't in a hurry. It would take quite some time for that, and he could purchase that by himself later. Senior brother Jiang, you must watch them very carefully. Slight carelessness with high-grade spirit herbs can affect their quality, Qing Yu said. Junior sister Qing, don't worry, Jiang Hao said politely. The deadline is in 6 months. Please don't be late. All right. Jiang Hao nodded in response. 6 months was too long. He wouldn't take that long. If he clashed with someone outside, it would be extremely dangerous. The appraisal didn't specify a set time to water the plants, so he didn't have to compromise his guarding duty at the mountain gate. Fortunately, the person from earlier didn't seem to have done anything yet. Otherwise, with his cultivation, he would have already turned the Heavenly Note sect upside down. Perhaps he was waiting for a conflict between the Heavenly Note sect and the fallen immortal clan. Jiang Hao wasn't sure. The most urgent task was to seize the opportunity and advance to the return to Void Realm as soon as possible. By doing so, the danger posed by Hai Ming would disappear, and he could better avoid the aftermath of the battle between powerful individuals. However, he was unsure whether he could achieve advancement before the confrontation between the two sides. Currently, the Primordial Spirit and Soul Ascension Realm cultivators had begun to spar at the grand competition, and many times, there were grand displays of power. It wouldn't be long before the grand force reached its peak. The influence of the fallen immortal clan was also growing. It seemed like the Heavenly Note sect had reacted, but the result was not good. Some individuals from the Black Heaven sect even started to move outward. Conflicts hadn't erupted yet. In response, Jiang Hao could only study the Nameless Manual and the Heaven Lock technique in his free time. In his break time, he needed to plant high-grade spirit herb seeds. He couldn't change the events in the outside world, so he could only improve himself to be able to face the danger in the future. In the Candlelight Pill Pavilion, Lian Daoji, who had achieved the peak of the Gold Core realm, also employed some other people to plant spirit herbs. In recent years, he had also become a primordial spirit alchemist, and currently, his biggest competitor was senior brother Bu Yi. So, upon hearing the report, he found it somewhat unbelievable. You're sure that senior brother Bu Yi is stubbornly insisting on cooperating with the Cliff of Broken Hearts, despite the obstacles? He found it truly unbelievable. The Cliff of Broken Hearts was not bad, but it was far inferior when compared to the other spirit herb gardens in the sect. Chapter 586, Chapter 586. We are your distant relatives, 2. Chapter 586. We are your distant relatives, 2. High-grade spirit herb seeds could be planted there, but not in large quantities. When the quantity was small, the Cliff of Broken Hearts would incur losses in planting. When the quantity was this large, no one would dare incur big losses, especially in cultivating spirit herbs, and the Cliff of Broken Hearts lacked experience in this sort of thing. So even though they had a good collaboration before, he didn't choose the Cliff of Broken Hearts. For matters of this scale, he preferred better spirit herb gardens. Yes, the collaboration has been established, and the spirit herbs have been sent to the Cliff of Broken Hearts Spirit Herb Garden, said a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. How did senior brother Bu Yi's people react? Lian Daoji asked. They seemed a bit reluctant, but there's nothing they can do, said the Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator. Does this mean that senior brother Bu Yi's chances of winning in the upcoming competition are reduced? Lian Daoji frowned. It's not a particularly high-quality high-grade spirit herb, and there's nothing that can't be bought with enough spirit stones. However, the chances of obtaining something exceptional are slim. I'm puzzled as to why he would do this. By the way, what do others think? The Foundation establishment realm thought for a moment. Everyone is treating it like a joke. They all understand the situation with the Cliff of Broken Hearts Spirit Herb Garden. So, cooperating with the Cliff of Broken Hearts at this time seems like an attempt to shift the blame. Some say senior brother Bu Yi has been having issues with alchemy recently. If the competition fails, he can blame it on the quality of the spirit herbs. Is that so? Lian Daoji lowered his head in thought. He recalled Jiang Hao, the one who handled his spirit herbs before. The result was indeed surprising. The Cliff of Broken Hearts Spirit Herb Garden had been stable under his management. Whether it was the people working there or other emergencies, everything was handled efficiently. He wouldn't have paid much attention. But he heard that Jiang Hao had been guarding the mountain gate recently and probably wouldn't participate in the garden. Who is in charge of the high-grade spirit herbs this time at the Cliff of Broken Hearts? Jiang Hao from the Cliff of Broken Hearts. It said that senior brother Bu Yi specifically asked for him. Lian Daoji's brows slightly furrowed, and he felt a bit annoyed. He thought it would be Miao Tinglian. She had been handling the matters in the garden, and he knew about her capabilities. However, this made him rather unhappy. When compared to Jiang Hao, he actually preferred Miao Tinglian to be in charge. Let's go and check. Lian Daoji led his group outside. He wanted to see if anyone else was paying attention to this and hear their opinions. It didn't take long for them to see a crowd gathered close by. The commotion grew louder. I bet that the spirit herbs from the Cliff of Broken Hearts will be of the poorest quality. Lian Daoji was puzzled as he looked over. It's a bet set up by senior brother Shong. He bet that senior brother Bu Yi would definitely receive inferior quality spirit herbs, whispered the Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator. Are many people betting on that? Lian Daoji asked. A lot, the Foundation Establishment Realm Cultivator nodded. Would you like to bet too, senior brother? Let's wait for now. Lian Daoji soon spotted Shong Yi. The two exchanged greetings. Junior brother Lian, are you also interested in the news about the spirit herbs? Shong Yi asked with a smile. Yes, after all, it concerns the resource allocation for the next few years. Lian Daoji nodded. Originally, senior brother Bu Yi had a high chance of winning this time, but it seems he made a mistake. He actually asked the Cliff of Broken Hearts Spirit Herb Garden to help cultivate the spirit herbs. The first place is now up for grabs. Shong Yi laughed. How much do you know about Jiang Hao at the Cliff of Broken Hearts? He asked. Not much, but there's quite a bit of information about the Spirit Herb Garden. This person has good observation skills, acts decisively, and progresses in cultivation quickly. He's not an ordinary individual. But when it comes to spirit herbs, forgive me for being straightforward, he's just ordinary, said Shong Yi truthfully. Just ordinary? Lian Daoji asked. Yes, if we're talking about this person's strength and power, I might not have a complete understanding of it, but their ability to cultivate spirit herbs is nothing remarkable. Compared to Miao Tinglian from the same branch, the difference is that of heaven and earth. Lian Daoji nodded and thanked Shong Yi before taking his leave. On the way back, he hesitated. Do you think Jiang Hao is that bad too? The Foundation Establishment Realm disciple hesitated. Then, he nodded. Based on what we know so far, I think so. All right. I want to bet on him, said Lian Daoji. He saw that his junior was puzzled by his decision. There's nothing strange about it. If senior brother Bu Yi really made a mistake, we have a chance to win. Losing a few spirit stones is not a big deal. But if something unexpected happens and the Cliff of Broken Hearts is willing to take a loss for the sake of publicity, then we'll still gain something. What if the other side is just in the middle range, and we guessed wrong? The Foundation Establishment Realm disciple asked. Lian Daoji smiled and didn't say anything. There was no such thing as a risk-free profit. What they were doing now was attempting to increase their gains and minimize losses. Doing nothing would feel like an even greater loss. Around early May, Jiang Hao had been cultivating the high-grade spirit herbs for half a month, and everything seemed fine for now. To avoid any accidents, He had sent the beast to guard and prevent ordinary people from approaching the herbs. He also made sure nothing in the surroundings interfered with their growth. This batch of spirit herb seeds would determine whether he could advance quickly. He didn't know when he would have such an opportunity again. After reaching the return to Void Realm, the boost from high-grade spirit herbs would sharply decline. Besides dealing with the spirit herbs, Jiang Hao was also keeping an eye on the sect's grand competition. It had been a month, and everything was going smoothly. People seemed hopeful. During his time, many peculiar people had entered the Heavenly Note sect. The Fallen Immortal clan seemed to be quite skilled at infiltrating sects. It made sense. They could even infiltrate the Bright Moon sect, so infiltrating the Heavenly Note sect was a piece of cake for them. This also meant that a major battle was about to erupt. What concerned him most was that a few of those infiltrators seemed to glance at him. It was a subtle gaze, but he noticed it. The Fallen Immortal clan might have set their sights on him. If a battle broke out later, there was a good chance they might drag him along the way. As expected, the more you do, the more troublesome people you encounter, and the greater the risks you face. Given the current circumstances, he could only make his own preparations. Around mid-May, Jiang Hao left his post at the mountain gate and walked to the spirit herb garden at night. The moon was bright in the sky, and a gentle breeze swayed the leaves. However, the moonlight retreated, and silence fell in an instant. Suddenly, he felt uneasy. Immediately after, a deafening roar echoed, and thunderclouds covered the sky. The grand force twisted and distorted. Is the Fallen Immortal clan finally attacking? Jiang Hao was shocked. He had never expected an attack to come so suddenly. Many people realized something was terribly wrong. Rumble. The thunder descended and bombarded the Heavenly Note sect's grand formation. At that moment, dozens of figures rushed into the sky. Nangong Wenwu led the charge. You petty scums, you finally dare to show yourselves. I've been waiting for you for a long time. A voice resonated across the land. Jiang Hao didn't know if the Black Heaven sect was really prepared for this, or if they were just trying to scare the attackers. However, soon the sky was covered by the shadow of the abyss. It made it difficult to perceive anything at all. Jiang Hao decided to retreat. He headed to the Lawless Tower. He wanted to evade the situation and hide for a while. However, just as he rode his sword to fly away, a large hand appeared in the DKTNCP. There was a deafening sound, and it slapped him to the ground. This strike didn't intend to kill him, only injure him. It probably only had the strength of the late stage of the Golden Core realm. He could only pretend to be injured and fall on the ground. Otherwise, it would seem suspicious. Immediately after, he began to unleash his divine ability, the Heavenly Cauldron. He wanted to pull everyone inside. He was also prepared to escape at any moment. The 1,000 miles teleportation talisman was ready. They're here. In no time, 3 figures swooped toward him. Relehvo men and a woman. The woman was in the late primordial spirit realm. One of the men was at the early stage of the soul ascension realm, and the other one was at the peak of the soul ascension realm. Jiang Hao was surprised. The fact that powerful cultivators were sent for him was unexpected. It was a bold move. Aren't there any weaklings among the Fallen Immortal clan? Friend, where are you headed? Asked the woman. She was dressed in black, with her hair tied up in a simple knot. May I know who you are? Jiang Hao made sure there was no one around and closed the Heavenly Cauldron. However, he didn't rush to attack. He wanted to know why they were targeting him. We are your distant relatives. We are entrusted by your parents to take you out to meet them. As they are nearing the end of their lives, we may be a bit forceful in our methods. We hope you won't mind, said the woman in black with a smile. Jiang Hao was speechless. Chapter 587, Chapter 587, Killing You with a Smile. Chapter 587, Killing You with a Smile. Looking at the 3 people in front of him, Jiang Hao felt strange. This was somewhat unexpected. If he didn't know which clan they belonged to, he might have believed them. After all, in all these years, whenever he went out, he always thought of finding his stepmother and his father. Perhaps seeing them would make him a bit happy. However, there probably wouldn't be a chance for that. Do you not believe us? Asked the woman as she approached him. I don't quite believe it, Jiang Hao said indifferently. Why did you come looking for me? My name is Guan Zijing. You can call me Auntie Guan, Guan Zijing said with a smile. Jiang Hao was somewhat helpless. He sighed softly and got straight to the point. Do the people of the fallen immortal clan like this kind of thing? Guan Zijing was a bit surprised. How did you know that? Since they were discovered, they didn't intend to deny the truth. I'll tell you about that later. I'm curious. Why did you come to me? Jiang Hao asked. Do you remember Jiu Qing? A middle-aged man asked. He was at the peak of the soul ascension realm. Soul fire burned around his body. This was to oppress him with power. I remember. Did you target me because she mentioned my name? Jiang Hao asked. Yes. Why do you think she remembered your name? Why do all the people spying on you end up dead? Guan Zijing asked with a smile. Are you here to spy on me? Guan Zijing shook her head. The risk is too great, and it's not worth it. This time, we've come to take you back with us. Then, we can ask you whatever we want. Of course, what I said earlier is true. We can help you find your parents. I heard that you were sold here, so you must hate them, right? We can help you catch them. Jiang Hao was speechless. These people had indeed investigated him thoroughly. But one thing was clear. The fallen immortal clan couldn't spy on him whenever they felt like it. I heard that your clan acts lofty and superior. Why bother to contend with an ordinary cultivator like me? Jiang Hao asked. Usually, cultivators with strong aura were targeted. Whether it was Hong Yuye or the Bright Moon sect Sai Cheng and Wn Xiu, they all gave him a feeling of vastness. Lofty and superior? Guan Zijing sneered. We are lofty and superior because you are on your knees in front of us. Unfortunately, you interfered with things that didn't concern you. How can you blame us for targeting you? That's true. Jiang Hao nodded. The fallen immortal clan was no longer superior since they had fallen from grace. Now, it's my turn to answer you, Jiang Hao said. For example, why do I know that you are from the fallen immortal clan? Why was I unharmed by your attack? And why am I indifferent to your strength? You must be curious, right? We are a bit curious, Guan Zijing said with her eyes slightly narrowed. Could it be that you've hidden your cultivation realm? But even if you've hidden your cultivation realm, do you really think you are my match? Perhaps you don't even know what cultivation realm we are in. Don't be hasty in jumping to conclusions. I haven't answered all those questions yet. Jiang Hao suddenly smiled, but his smile was sinister. Oh, then why? Guan Zijing asked. Have you ever thought that I might not be who I appear to be? Jiang Hao's eyes were no longer calm. Guan Zijing chuckled. Then, who are you? Jiang Hao took out a fan, and at the same time, his appearance changed. He was graceful and clad in white robes. The white figure suddenly disappeared. Guan Zijing only saw a flash of white passing by, and then something pierced her stomach. At the same time, the figure in front of her became clear. He was smiling sinisterly. She hadn't had the time to react to the attack. She felt another pain. The white figure withdrew a treasure from Guan Zijing. As the fan was retrieved, her blood splattered. The figure looked at her and asked, "Do you know who I am now?" The fan unfolded. There were 4 words on it, Smiling San Sheng. Smiling. San Sheng? Guan Zijing was shocked. Jiang Hao smiled. Correct. I'll reward you with another slash. Moonlight emerged. He used the moonslaying technique. Blood spurted from Guan Zijing's neck, and her life force quickly faded. Jiang Hao turned to the other 2. He had used divine might to suppress the 2. After Guan Zijing fell, they glared and erupted with powerful strength. A thunderous sound broke through the divine might. Thief! How dare you kill her? One of the men shouted. At the moment the other person made a move, Jiang Hao's figure flashed to his side and used the fan to cut off the hand casting the spell. With a smile, he asked, "Are you talking to me? Who do you think you are?" The one left with only one hand attacked again. However, before the hand could touch anyone, it flew through the air. Who do you think I actually am? Jiang Hao appeared beside the person. The man in the early stage of the soul ascension realm roared in anger and tried to attack. As he turned to attack, he suddenly felt his legs go weak, and he fell to the ground. Only then did he realize that his legs had been severed from his body. Jiang Hao stepped on the man's face. So, tell me, who do you think I am? Bam! Jiang Hao stomped and bashed his face in. The person never expected to die in such humiliation. After killing him, Jiang Hao looked around. By this time, the man at the peak of the soul ascension realm had fled. A cultivator at the same level as I ran away without a fight. There was no escape with the heavenly cauldron. He raised the fan as if it were a long blade. He then used the third form of the heavenly blade, the meteor. With a swoosh, Jiang Hao transformed into a streak of light and chased after the person. At that moment, the man was flying through the sky. Smiling San Sheng had been baiting them, and they had fallen for it. However, everyone here was from their clan. If he could escape a little further, he would find help. The more he fled, the more desperate he became. He was anxious. He felt like he was going in circles. Swoosh! There was a sound behind him. Smiling San Sheng had caught up. The man's heart pounded. He had escaped numerous dangers in his lifetime. This would be no exception. Swoosh! He felt something pierce through his body. In an instant, he stopped. A white figure appeared in front of him. The figure smiled warmly as though he was finally meeting a friend after a long time. He opened the fan. There were 5 words on it this time, all things return to. 1. Friend, won't you stay here a bit longer? At that moment, a rushing wind filled his ears, and eventually, everything turned into emptiness. His consciousness was devoured by the abyss, and he was engulfed in despair. Chapter 588, Chapter 588, Mountain and Sea Sword Force, Tearing the Sky with One Sword Strike. Chapter 588, Mountain and Sea Sword Force, Tearing the Sky with One Sword Strike. Jiang Hao looked at the 3 deceased individuals and returned to his original appearance. He was worried that these people would spread the news about Smiling San Sheng. Having encountered the fallen immortal clan once before, he didn't want to experience it again. He wondered if they had a unique method of transmitting names. Logically, they shouldn't. With my divine powers, I would be able to sense anything they try to do. While he cleaned up, he picked up the storage treasures. The fallen immortal clan's man at the peak of Soul Ascension realm hadn't been as strong as he had expected. After picking up the 3 storage treasures, he set the bodies on fire. Only then did he deactivate his divine ability. At this moment, the pitch-black sky was covered by light, and rumbling sounds approached from a distance. Many strong individuals from the Heavenly Note sect flew out. From a distance, the interweaving of their powers continued without interruption. Even he wouldn't dare to face these forces directly. It seems they haven't broken in. As long as the Great Formation wasn't breached, he was still safe. He headed to the Spirit Herb Garden again. Since the Great Formation was still intact, it meant that the Heavenly Note sect and the Black Heaven sect were sufficiently prepared, and a sudden attack was unlikely to happen. He spent a long time watering the spirit herbs with moonlight and dew before sitting cross-legged on the ground. He didn't intend to return to the mountain gate temporarily. It was too dangerous. During this time, he had purchased a lot of extra items for planting the spirit herbs. Unfortunately, he was still lacking over 10,000 spirit stones. I wonder if the storage treasures I obtained tonight can fill this gap. Jiang Hao murmured softly as he took out 3 storage pouches. After a quick look at the first one, he found only some spirit herbs and nothing. How could this be? He looked at the others and found the same thing. Did they use it all before coming here? The lack of spirit stones disappointed Jiang Hao. When the people had attacked him today, he had almost felt excited that he might get more spirit stones. Unfortunately, there were no spirit stones. I'll have to earn it myself. Fortunately, he still had Heaven Rejuvenating Pill to sell. It might make up for the shortage. The abnormality lasted for a very long time. The brightness in the sky fluctuated, and it seemed like 10 days had passed outside. However, the situation had changed. The force had become even more complex now. Hong Yuye told him that no one from the Heavenly Note sect and the Black Heaven sect could control it. During this time, he hadn't been to the mountain gate, and the guards had changed to stronger disciples after the outbreak of a major battle. However, the grand competition had not stopped. But the change in the situation seemed to have brought a lot of trouble to the Black Heaven sect. If the situation cannot be reversed, perhaps we can no longer stay here. The Grand Earth Sovereign's power should be as vast as the mountains and rivers and as bright as the sun and moon. But now, the power was accompanied by darkness and a fallen atmosphere. They could only observe the situation but couldn't act on it. A few more days passed, and many disciples of the Heavenly Note sect ignited the fire of their blood and spiritual energy to resonate with the great force in the high sky. Although the flames were quickly extinguished, the two great forces completely merged. But it was no longer vast and boundless. The Black Heaven sect felt helpless. In the sky, Jiu Yun's body was covered in blood. He looked at the situation unfolding and laughed loudly. Nangong Wunwu, what if you defeat me? You can't change anything. You'll miss the chance and Shenyuan clan will never rise again. Being interrupted during the build-up of the force was very damaging. Nangong Wunwu's face darkened. You're really seeking death. A loud rumbling spread in all directions and many people in the Heavenly Note sect were worried. Senior brother Kendo, do you think the Grand Earth Sovereign can still appear? Asked the man who was the first to meet Kendo at the gate. He was Zhuo Ping, an inner disciple of the Thunderfire Peak. Lately, this senior had been guiding him in his cultivation and had even given him a new technique. Now, he had started practicing swordsmanship, and his progress was rapid. His junior was about the same but with a different technique. It seems to be a failure, but if someone succeeds in integrating the great force at this time, that would be a true success. Do you think our sect would be grateful if someone did this? Kendo asked. It's hard to say, but Black Heaven sect will definitely be grateful. I heard that this great force has brought many benefits to our sect this time, so they should also be happy, Zhuo Ping said. If they're not happy, then wouldn't this person be at a loss? It's hard to say. After all, the Grand Earth Sovereign has appeared. Isn't his appearance beneficial to us ordinary cultivators? Zhuo Ping said. Kendo smiled and nodded. Then, he remembered something. I recall what my master said. Ah, what did he say? Zhuo Ping asked curiously. Kendo smiled and moved his body, saying, when I had just started and was still ignorant, my master told me that if you truly don't understand, go and look at the mountains. Go and look at the sea. At that time, I was learning the sword, so to understand the sword, I saw the mountain as a sword and the sea as a sword. Later, I walked across mountains and crossed seas. Still, I couldn't comprehend it until I saw the figure in the mountains and a reflection in the stream. That's when I realized the sword I needed to comprehend had always been in my own hands. At that time, I saw the mountain as a mountain and the sea as a sea. Zhuo Ping didn't understand, but he still exclaimed, your master is really amazing. Ha ha ha. Kendo laughed. I really like you, junior brother. But do you know what others saw me as from that moment? What did they see? Zhuo Ping asked. They saw this. Kendo pointed his two fingers like a sword and pointed high toward the sky. In that instant, a shocking intent soared into the sky. Zhuo Ping widened his eyes. He could hardly believe it. He seemed to see the vast and boundless sword shadows. Mountain and sea sword force. Boom. Endless rumbling echoed and shook the entire Heavenly Note sect. In the spirit herb garden, Jiang Hao was astonished. He looked up and saw a long sword piercing the sky and resonating throughout the 8 directions. Soon after, screams and roars echoed from the sky. However, everything quickly vanished, and the entire Heavenly Note sect stood prepared. All defenses were activated, and all the experts stood ready. The entire cliff of broken hearts erupted with an unprecedented force as if preparing for a calamity. The terrifying sword's momentum could crush everything. Everyone was in a panic, but Jiang Hao remained unfazed. In an instant, the beast and Xiao Li were by his side. "Master, this sword doesn't show any respect to me," the beast said. Xiao Li nodded, but she wasn't scared. However, she was still startled by the scene. It was the first time she had seen such a massive sword. The reason Jiang Hao didn't flee was that the sword intent had arrived a long time ago. He knew the person. If he really intended to attack the Heavenly Note sect, he would have done it long ago. As expected, the sword momentum did not attack anyone. Instead, it began to integrate with the great force. A white figure streaked across the sky and headed toward the source of the sword's intent. Jiang Hao knew that it was Elder Baiji. "I thought the sect master would appear. Even in this situation, they haven't shown up. I wonder if something unexpected has happened." He had thought that the appearance of Kendo would definitely be enough to draw out the Heavenly Note Demoness. It disappointed Jiang Hao. He was curious about the current status of the sect master. Of course, more than that, he was eager to see their strength. He was still too weak now and needed to become stronger. Chapter 589, Conversation with the Saint Bandit. Chapter 589, Conversation with the Saint Bandit. The vast sword intent covered the sky and concealed the sun. The only thing Jiang Hao could perceive was the great force. The sword intent integrated with the great force of the Heavenly Note sect and the fallen immortal clan and began to merge with the earth. Under such a great force, everyone present would benefit significantly. It was even more likely to bring about the appearance of the Grand Earth Sovereign. It seemed that the fallen immortal clan was fleeing. Kendo didn't pay attention to these people. After a long time, the sword intent began to subside, and the strong representatives of the sect were all heading toward the source. They wanted to meet this powerful figure. The aura of the Cliff of Broken Hearts also gradually dissipated. Everything returned to normal. Jiang Hao let out a sigh of relief. It was unexpected that Kendo had helped. But since he had arrived and extended a helping hand, it was only natural to thank him. Perhaps he had offered his aid as a courtesy. In any case, he needed to pay attention to what came next. There were many treasures of the Heavenly Note sect with him, especially the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. Fortunately, the person was treating him courteously. If they had invaded him, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Jiang Hao intended to attend to his own matters, but he suddenly thought of something. A strong figure had arrived. Is this the person mentioned by Senior Dan Yuan? Is he here for the Heaven Lock technique? Jiang Hao was wary. Powerful individuals were unpredictable. Just because that person was being courteous right now didn't mean they would always be like that. Furthermore, if they became greedy, trouble would surely ensue. Kendo might have had dealings with Senior Dan Yuan like Shuang Yuzhen had. So, it wouldn't be surprising if they took action. Now that Elder Baiji had gone over, the next step would be to observe the Heaven Lock technique. But it was in his possession. I wonder if I'll get caught up in this. Jiang Hao stopped overthinking. The answers would be known in a few days. At present, he needed to maintain a low profile and await Elder Baiji's instructions. 3 days later, the sky had completely returned to normal, and the influence brought by the fallen immortal clan gradually disappeared. That sword's intent was startling and inspiring. Jiang Hao felt the same way. He didn't know how long it would take for him to reach that kind of power, but he would strive to get closer. For now, he was focused on planting spirit herbs, even if it meant consuming his own spirit stones. In another 2 months, it would be almost time. The 6-month deadline was approaching twice as fast. I wonder if this will cause another commotion. For the benefits, he could endure that too. People only spread rumors, after all. It wouldn't attract too much attention. Another 3 days passed. Jiang Hao received a message from the White Moon Lake. It instructed him to go to the Lawless Tower. He knew that Kendo had already reached an agreement with Elder Baiji. He was also quite sure that Kendo had come looking for the Heaven Lock technique. It wasn't a good thing that the Heaven Lock technique was in his hands. After a while, He reached the 5th floor of the Lawless Tower. Jiang Hao was led to the center by senior sister Yinsha. There was a table here, and above it was a mirror that shone down. You can sit here, junior brother Jiang, and then place the items on the table. Don't worry about anything else. All right. Jiang Hao nodded. Before coming up, senior sister Yinsha had informed him that someone wanted to borrow the Heaven Lock technique. He looked around but didn't see Kendo anywhere. He is on a higher floor and won't meet with you yet, so you don't need to worry too much, senior sister Yinsha said kindly. Jiang Hao nodded and thanked her. So that was how it was. He felt much more at ease. It seemed that the Heavenly Note sect also didn't want anyone to know where the Heaven Lock technique was. The moment he sat down at the table, Jiang Hao had a strange feeling that someone was sitting across from him. Then, he took out the Heaven Lock technique, placed it under the light of the mirror, and slowly opened it. The characters on it began to manifest. In Jiang Hao's eyes, they were still chaotic. He seemed to see a person sitting next to him. It was a middle-aged man. He looked at Jiang Hao and said, I was born in the Heavenly Spirit tribe. Our tribe was blessed by the heavens and born at a height beyond the reach of countless others. This was a source of pride for me. But, for 100 years, our tribe has not seen any new life. I thought it was a problem with our tribe, so I began to explore medical arts. However, even medical arts couldn't save our tribe. I explored witchcraft and this time, I succeeded, but the newborns were different from ordinary Heavenly Spirit tribe infants. They had no talent. Even their lifespans were unusually short. I tried a few more times, but the result was the same. I didn't continue after that and began to observe. 10 years, 100 years. No result until one fateful day, a major battle occurred, and our tribe suffered enormous casualties. After that, babies were born in our tribe. Their talent was exceptional. In the following years, the population became stagnant again. This time, there was one more person than before, but after calculating the talents of each person, I noticed something. The talents of these two were weaker than the previous ones. This discovery shocked me. I observed not only the Heavenly Spirit tribe but also other humans, the Fallen Immortal clan, the True Dragon clan, and the Flood Dragon race. Jiang Hao sat upright. The sword on the table was moving, and the characters were still falling into place. At that moment, the figure stood up. I spent thousands of years observing and consulting countless scriptures. Finally, I understood one thing. There was only one race as strong as the Torch Dragon. Born with the same lifespan as the heavens, an overwhelming might erupted as soon as they opened their eyes. However, they were weak in numbers, like the humans. Heaven and earth somewhat favor many races. The Heavenly Spirit tribe and the True Dragon clan were born with astonishing talents. They were admired by countless others, but their numbers were far fewer than those who were born weak. They couldn't be compared to ordinary humans. At that point, I came to a conclusion. The total number of racial talent remains fixed. Chapter 590, The Grand Unity of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 590, The Grand Unity of Heaven and Earth. Jiang Hao was astonished. He had a rough understanding of the content of the scroll from his last encounter, but this was much clearer. The characters were still falling in place, and Kendo's strength could support the aura of the Heaven Lock technique. As the sword intent surged, the figure became more mobile. The total amount of innate talent is fixed, so for races that are born standing on higher ground due to their talents, once the racial talents are divided, the population of the group will no longer increase. The Heavenly Spirit tribe went through that, and so did the True Dragon clan. As for the Flood Dragon clan, since their total innate talent was not as much as the True Dragon clans, they sought a relationship with the True Dragon clan. Eventually, they could transform into true dragons. Humans are different. They are born ordinary. Even though they have talents, they are small in number and have shorter lifespans. Therefore, even if the quantity of the talent is limited, it won't affect their population. At that moment, the figure looked at the two of them and seemed to sense that someone was watching him. After discovering all this, What were your thoughts? Feelings? Jiang Hao was in awe. This person's talent and knowledge was simply unbelievable. Kendo was silent for a moment. It is somewhat unbelievable. The figure smiled. I am excited, very excited. Finally, I found my reason. Knowing the reason allows me to find a way to change this. I succeeded and found a way to interfere with it. However, selfishness cannot change anything. My goal has changed. My purpose no longer revolves only around the heavenly spirit tribe. What I want is the grand unity of heaven and earth. I want to unify the races and bring forth a radiant, new era. What I seek is a unity where there are no racial limitations, no total innate talent, no limit for races. Everyone can follow and achieve the cultivation path, and everyone has a chance to do so. I want all races to rise and contend for the world. I want innate talent to no longer be everything. In this way, I want to achieve the grand unity of heaven and earth. Did you succeed? Kendo asked. The middle-aged figure smiled faintly and didn't answer the question. He sat down again and spoke, but this time, Jiang Hao couldn't understand his words. It seemed to involve power, and it was intricate and obscure. Before long, even Kendo couldn't continue. He slowly withdrew the sword's intent. Jiang Hao knew that it wasn't easy to completely comprehend the heaven lock technique. However, what he had gained this time was sufficient for him. At least now he knew what the grand unity of heaven and earth was. It was indeed a great goal, but unfortunately, their actions to achieve this were questionable. Jiang Hao didn't have a favorable opinion of Saint Bandits. However, the Saint Bandits were definitely being closely watched by the world. If it was only the idealistic theory, it wouldn't be a big problem. But when the Heaven Lock technique was unveiled, everything changed. The Saint Bandits might actually succeed. After the light from the mirror disappeared, Jiang Hao put away the Heaven Lock technique. At that moment, Senior Sister Yinshaw looked at him in a daze. Is it over? It's over. Jiang Hao nodded. Senior Sister Yinshaw was astonished. She hadn't noticed anything. Boom. Suddenly, a collision startled Jiang Hao. He turned to look. Nangong, you had crashed into the wall. I sensed his aura. What have you done? Jiang Hao naturally wouldn't tell her that someone had just observed the Heaven Lock technique. However, the appearance of that figure did not seem like a simple illusion. It felt like a living person was before him. Kendo probably felt the same way, which was why he asked if they had succeeded. The Saint Bandits should have failed. The decline of the Heavenly Spirit tribe and the sealing of the Saint Bandits should have been enough. After a long while, Jiang Hao left the Lawless Tower. It was a good thing he hadn't met Kendo in person. It had made him feel uneasy when Kendo had met his eyes before. The fallen immortal clan retreated. Kendo had achieved his goal. All the matters should have been settled now. Jiang Hao breathed a sigh of relief. Finally, he could focus on growing spirit herbs, but he still lacked 10,000 spirit stones. He needed to figure out a way to obtain them. 7 more days passed. It was already early June. A sword shadow broke through the sky, with tremendous momentum. Kendo has left. Jiang Hao was in the spirit herb garden. With the current situation settled, all the unexpected events had calmed. The Black Heaven sect had also gained a lot. Now it was a matter of whether the Grand Earth Sovereign would appear or not. Previously, it might have been impossible, but with someone like Kendo taking action, there was now a possibility. The grand competition continued. Jiang Hao remained in the spirit herb garden and was relieved of his gatekeeping duty for the time being. He was quite content with this. As time passed, a golden light appeared in the sky. A figure appeared in the golden light. He was standing on the ground with an emperor-like aura. But the aura was not stable. Jiang Hao knew that it was the aura of the Grand Earth Sovereign. Even if he didn't succeed this time, he would still be able to refine the aura in the future. Jiang Hao didn't know who exactly it was. Around mid-July, all the matters seemed to calm down. Jiang Hao heard that the last one to resonate with the great force was Shenyuan Tai. It seemed that he was the most likely to become the Grand Earth Sovereign, especially since he also had the favor of the mountain and the sea. He had appraised some people from the Shenyuan clan. Not all of them had the blessing of the mountain and the sea. Shenyuan Tai was truly unique. For Jiang Hao, the most important thing was the spirit herbs. During this period, he sold a heaven rejuvenating pill for 7,500 spirit stones. In addition, he sold some talismans and earned about 1,500 spirit stones. He also sold some spirit herbs he had stored. In the end, he managed to accumulate the required spirit stones. Today was the day when the first batch of the spirit herbs would mature. He needed to go and see how many bubbles had appeared. At the spirit herb garden, as soon as Jiang Hao entered, he saw blue bubbles everywhere. As he approached, these bubbles began to absorb into his body. In total, there were 28 blue bubbles and 8 green bubbles. Out of 100 seeds, only 28 blue bubbles? It was not as many as he had expected. Jiang Hao was a little disappointed. Fortunately, the difference wasn't too big. During late July, another batch of spirit herbs sprouted. This time, Jiang Hao found that there were quite a few more blue bubbles than before. In total, there were 35 blue bubbles and 12 green bubbles. This exceeded his expectations. Now, he only needed to wait for the final batch. Around early August, Jiang Hao once again walked to the spirit herb garden. The grand force of the Heavenly Note sect had completely disappeared, and the collaboration between the Black Heaven sect and the Heavenly Note sect had also come to an end. During this time, many people had gained opportunities, including junior brother Han Ming. Currently, Han Ming was only a step away from becoming a Golden Core Realm cultivator. His progress was unbelievably fast. Reaching the Golden Core Realm at the age of 32 was indeed remarkable. When Jiang Hao entered the spirit herb garden, he saw many blue bubbles. He breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that he would be able to advance in time. He just didn't know when Hong Yuye would visit. However, he didn't have any spirit stones left. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.